Feed me tuna. Oh, I'm a pelican.
And
we're gonna have to get a new one of those.
Oh yeah, yeah. We're gonna have garbage in, garbage out is gonna be the name of the new show. I love how you came up with that.
It just back in my old coding days, and I'm like, that's what we do is we produce garbage.
Well, see, and I honestly, when you first said that, I kind of thought it was going to be more of a George Carlin thing because he was talking about politicians. He's like, "Oh, this is the best we can do. You feed garbage into the system, that's what you're going to get. Garbage in, garbage out." And I was like, "Oh, we're going to go political with this." And then you told me, everything that was going on with that, and I was like, "Oh, it actually does make sense."
And I appreciate self-inflicted humor, and so I know I produce crap, and so why not?
Well, see, and that's like with me too. It's a lot of people wonder how can I sit here and make fun of my own eye, and I'm like, what else am I gonna do with this?
Right. Right.
People are like, oh, can we make jokes? I'm like, it's probably nothing I haven't said, so go for it.
Yeah, that's like there's a comedian, Josh Blue.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he's hilarious, and I think it's cerebral palsy that he has, but he was saying, people are like, oh, I don't want to say this to offend you, and he's like, I'm offended that you think I'd be offended. And he goes, because I've probably said way worse shit about myself than you could ever come up with.
I think wasn't he the guy? Wasn't he on like Last Comic Standing or something?
Yeah.
And if I remember right, the funniest joke I think he ever said that I heard was when he said that people can't tell that he's not drunk. The only person that can tell when he's drunk is his mom because his key will go into the door straight.
Yeah, that's him. Yeah, he also made the joke where he's the only one that can say that he's the whitest African American because he was actually born in Africa, and then moved to Minnesota because I guess his dad was like in the army or something like that, and so he's like, I'm the whitest African American, and like all of that. But
see, I love that when you can make fun of yourself.
You have to.
How else are you going to survive in this world if
exactly.
you don't?
So therefore, garbage in, garbage out.
Somebody asked me recently when I mentioned on my stream why that we were going to call it garbage in, garbage out. They were like, why would you call it that? And I was like, because we're a bunch of nobodies and we talk shit on the internet.
Yep. We are the 99% of the internet. A bunch of nobodies talking shit. So
honestly, that is the internet.
Yeah.
At least for the most part.
Yeah.
No, so how have you been over this last week? I know you're working in retail, so kind of retail.
Yeah. I mean, since I've started my new position on third shifts, it's been a lot better. I guess you could say a lot less stress for me.
Mm-hmm.
I stepped down from my assistant manager position to just a guest service leader, and went to third shifts. And so it's great showing up at work, not a care in the world, and leaving the exact same. So, and quite honestly, I've had, excuse me, this Coke is Coca-Cola, not Coke. This Coke is making me burp. I've had several coworkers all say, you seem different, you seem happy, or you seem fun. And I'm just like, yeah, that's because stress is gone. So it's been going good.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, I've been working in retail, or not retail. I'm sorry. I've been working in insurance, and it's weird. Ever since that CEO got killed, everyone thinks it was my CEO. I'm like, I'm with Medicaid. Medicaid doesn't have a CEO. That's the whole thing. Right. It's a state-run thing. But yeah. I mean, there's always a little bit of an uptick around the holiday time, and people think it's because people are getting hurt, and that's not what it is. Actually, what it is that there's so many people in this call center that take off around this time. So, and they take off for, the whole month, or they save up all of their PT, or they take off weeks at a time. So that, and then it goes like, these amount of people, these amount of people. That's why it is. It's not that there's an increase in people calling. It's that there's less people taking the calls.
Gotcha.
So,
Gotcha. Makes sense.
so just don't get hurt during the holidays and you'll be fine.
Lay off the eggnog.
Well, I mean, I'm kind of doing the opposite here. You've got the Coke, and to celebrate the year-end review, I got some Bailey's s'mores here. So
nice. Bailey's makes a good cream.
Mm-hmm. And we should let you guys know for the YouTube algorithm, we are both over 21 years of age. Do not drink.
Does not give it away.
Yeah, I mean, I got a little gray in the beard here too.
Oh, a little. He says, "I'm going Santa Claus here."
You could play Santa Claus with your beard. See, I get like just a little bit of gray, like right here, and then it's like little sprinkles up here on top. But
you can see on this side, all right in here. This is all gray, like right there. That's all gray.
This is what happens when you get old, kids,
and have children.
You get old, you get gray, you have kids, and
I mean, my oldest is 11, and I look back at pictures from when he was just a baby, and I'm like, oh my god, look at all the brown that I had. What happened? That was only 11 years ago, But
so, yeah, that was. I remember when your wife was pregnant with your first child. Yeah. And hard to believe that I've got a nephew who's actually just turning 9 last November, so just last month. And I sit there and I'm like, he's like, hey, do you remember this? Do you remember this? Do you remember this, Uncle Adam? Do you remember this? And I'm like, I remember well before you were born, kid. Right. Right. I mean, the world started for you in 2015. It didn't start for me in 2015.
Yeah. In 2015, I was 25. So, but.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny, though, because he's got a younger sister, and she is about to turn 6. And you'd think that he'd be the bad influence, but no, it's her. She's the bad influence.
I have a feeling my niece, she's the younger one of my niece and nephew, and she's a little hellion. And my brother actually texted me because the ongoing joke is like every time I see them, it's either for like Christmas or a birthday or something. And when they're opening their presents, I'm like, it's a bowling ball, it's a bowling ball. And my brother sent me a text tonight. He's like, so I asked my nephew, I asked him, what should we get your uncle for Christmas? And like without missing beat, he just goes, a bowling ball. So, but
I don't know
the younger
why
one.
Oh, go ahead.
The younger one, she's definitely. It must be girls. I don't know, because all of my coworkers are saying, oh, my kids are hellions. I'm like, yeah, mine too, and they're like try raising girls, So it must be little girls are like just hellions or something. I don't know.
I've heard that. I don't have any kids, but my brother, who's got a boy and a girl, he's like, it was so much easier raising my son than my daughter.
Yeah, that's what my one coworker says. She's like, yeah, I've got a 9-year-old daughter that I'm, she's like, she might not live to see next Christmas. And I'm just like, well, I'll take your 9-year-old daughter if you want to take my two boys. And she's just like, boys are nothing. Boys are nothing. She's like, my sons were nothing. And like, so.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because I always thought Tyler, his son, was going to be the troublemaker because he caused a lot of issues when he was a kid, and then now we're getting into their teen years, and it's like his daughter literally ran away and ended up like a county over before she decided to come home. So I'm like, she's going to be the problem.
And just went for a walk.
Yes. And the brother, her brother, his oldest son, was just sitting there. He was terrified out of his mind about, what happened to his sister. They get home, and then he's just like, first he yells at her, and I found out through my brother, like, first he yelled at her, then he said, you scared us, and then he said, next time, do it right. It was like, of course, that's the way the brother's gonna.
Right. So.
Yeah, but yeah, we're what is that background that you have going there?
The girls, that's baby metal.
Metal.
It's probably one of my favorite bands right now. So,
okay.
Sue, the one in the middle, I'm the one I'm blocking. She just had a birthday. She just turned 27. But yeah, they're probably one of my favorite bands right now.
And it's kind of funny you say she just turned 27, and it's like I look at it like, man, to be 27 again.
Right. Yeah. They just finished up a tour not too long ago. I got to see them last September. They played in Chicago with Death Clock from Metalocalypse,
Oh,
and
nice.
they're fun. And it's funny because when I first heard of Baby Metal, I was like, "This is shit. This
Mm.
is horrible." And then one day at like 2 a.m, I was doing the YouTube, going down a foxhole of videos, and found one of their songs that I was like, okay, this isn't that bad. Let's try this song. And then that went from one song to like 5 songs to, okay, this whole album is a banger, to I love these guys.
Which is weird because I remember you were the one that introduced was that Tech Nine and Surge from System of a Down.
Yep. Yeah.
You were
Straight
the
out
one
the
that
gate.
Yeah, you were the one that introduced that to me and our mutual friend Brian. And I was like, I looked at it and I was like, this song is a couple years old. How did I never hear this before? And
Well,
then I heard it and I was like, this is the team up you never knew you needed, you know?
Tech always used to make the joke that he wouldn't go mainstream would go Tech.
Mm-hmm.
And I first heard of Tech Nine, and a lot of people, I think, he did a tour with Insane Clown Posse. And I was just absolutely blown away by him when I saw him live, and that's how I became a fan.
Mm.
And I know for a while there, him and ICP got into a big beef, and ICP was basically saying, you wouldn't be half as big as you were today if it weren't for all the juggalos and all of that. And Tech's like, man, I love the juggalos. They did help raise me. Like, he wasn't denying it,
Mm.
and I guess they've squashed that since then, but which I'm
Seems like
glad
most
for.
of Insane Clown Posse's beefs get squashed
Yeah,
eventually.
the only one they haven't squashed is with Twisted. And I mean, Twisted even went off and started their own record label and all of that. And that's another band, honestly, that I would have never heard of if not for ICP. Hell, Mindless Self-Indulgence, I would have
Mm-hmm.
never heard of if not for ICP. Tubring, which we'll talk about later, I've never heard of without ICP. So
And ICP does not get enough credit. I mean, maybe they're not everybody's cup of tea, but they do not get enough credit for what they've done for the music industry. I don't
and
think.
I agree, and I love the fact that they're okay with being the punching bag of the industry,
Mm-hmm.
and they've embraced it. And they're still going, what, 30 years now,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, I wholeheartedly agree that.
I remember seeing an interview where they said that where they said they didn't mind that, but when it came to like the Grammys, they didn't care if they got nominated. They didn't care if they won anything. They just wanted to be invited.
Yeah.
And their whole thing was a lot of times we'll come up with a certain kind of way of like, mixing the music or something like that. We'll come up with something that nobody's done before. And everybody's just like, oh, that doesn't count. It's ICP that did it. But
Yeah.
then when like, Eminem or, somebody, DMX, who was alive at the time, when they were like, when he would go do it, suddenly they'd be like, oh, this is the greatest thing ever. Who would have ever thought of doing this? It's like ICP did it 2 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And one thing I like, they did that, and they even turned it into a joke as well. When the pandemic hit, they went around to like a bunch of the homeless shelters in Detroit,
Mm-hmm.
and they found some company that they took a bunch of their old t-shirts and stuff and turned them into masks,
Mm-hmm.
and then went to like all these homeless shelters in Detroit and shit, and were passing out the masks for free.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, they even turned it into the joke of, well, nobody's buying our shit, so what are we going to do with it? And but the fact that they did that,
Mm-hmm.
and I even saw a tweet about that on Twitter, and the person was like, who would have thought that ICP was the one making the most sense in 2020 and
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that, so.
Well, that was like earlier this year. Did you watch any of the Olympics?
No, I don't
So
care.
so Snoop Dogg was a commentator on NBC for the Olympics. He was like one of the main people who was going around talking to all these, big athletes and everything. And it was like everybody from like gangsters to grandmas was loving Snoop. And Flavor Flav actually stepped up a lot of the the teams from the women's polo team, they couldn't afford to actually make it to the Olympics, and they were talking about selling their gold medals from last year so that they could afford to go to the Olympics this year. And he found out about that, and he stepped in and he said, "No, you keep your medals." And he literally just pulled out his checkbook and started like producing so that they could take these teams. And he was like, "What other teams are not going?" And he started writing team, So I was like, who would have thought in 2024 the most wholesome people on the television would be Snoop Dogg and Flavor Flav? And then it was funny because I talked to my mom and she was like, "Oh yeah, Snoop Dogg was on here." And I was like, "Mom, you used to yell at me and ground me for listening to Snoop Dogg's music.
Right.
You told me it was trash. You told me to get that trash out of your house."
Mm-hmm.
Now
you're watching it.
I was like, I in fact had to hide the CDs so that you didn't know that I was listening to it. Yeah. She's like, "I knew you were." I was like, "That's not the point."
Stay with me, Mom.
Come on task, on track.
Right.
But don't forget. And then she was like, "Well, who would have thought?" And I was like, I did. Yeah. I knew that whole gangster stuff was just a facade, and I was telling you that.
Right.
Yeah. I know, like Eminem also, like he puts out a lot of money, like he keeps enough that he can live. But he said he didn't want his kids to, just rely on his money all the time. So he teaches them, don't rely on his money, work for yourself. And he has said he will leave his money to his kids when he dies, but
when he dies.
Yeah, but that could be 50 years from now.
Yep. You ain't seeing a penny until then.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense.
But I was like, so Eminem is out there, funding all of these charities and organizations. Dr. Dre is doing all these charities and organizations. ICP. In fact, you know what? Even though his name is a little bad right now, Marilyn Manson has been known to whip out his checkbook and go like, "Hey, does this food place need anything?" Or those what do you call it? The food banks.
Mm-hmm.
And he'll just send his team out to get it and fill that food bank up. And I'm like,
yeah,
I don't hear anything about NSYNC doing this. I don't hear anything about, the BTS. I don't hear anything about Britney Spears doing this. I was like, all the ones you told me I should be listening to are keeping their money.
Yeah. It's weird. Life in general is weird.
Yeah, true. In fact, One Direction refused to do a charity concert because they weren't going to get paid. And then everybody was like, "Oh, then that guy died." And I was like, sad. Sad.
Anyways.
What else is happening?
Right.
Oh, you know what we need to do? We need to get one of those clips of that guy going like, "Oh no." Anyway.
Yeah, or Loki. Sad. Anyways. Yes, sad. Anyways.
So, but anyways, just kind of joking around with this. So we're doing our year-end review here. So it's been quite a year for video games, for music, for movies. Has anything? What's been? I would say when starting in January, if you can even remember back that far. What's some of the best games that you've played this year?
Tekken 8 is my go-to fighting game, and I didn't even realize that was this year until the Video Game Awards. But Tekken 8, Banishers: Ghost of New Eden is a fantastic game. Like a Dragon: Infinite Wealth, I need to finish that, but that's a good one. And then just today, I beat the new Dragon Age, and I'm one trophy away from getting the platinum in that. And that, for all the controversy and shit about wokeness, which I could give two flying fucks about, that's a good game. I really enjoyed it.
Okay.
So those were probably going to be my top games, with, I would say, as much as I've played Dragon Age more, I would have to give the nod towards Like a Dragon, because of the fact that, and I said this last week, you don't know what you're going to get. Like, you have a clue, but then they'll set the bar and then they'll either raise it or lower it, and you'll get hit with the feels, and then you'll be rolling on the ground laughing out loud, and then the next second you're like shocked at what just happened. And there's so many different things going on, and the writing is well done, and the characters are just well done and incredible. I have not watched, because I thought it was Amazon. Didn't Amazon have a Yakuza TV series based on the game? I haven't had a chance to watch that yet, but I would have to say my number one game of the year was Like a Dragon.
Oh, nice. Yep, and right here we had Chris Mix Live saying favorite game of 2024.
Well, there you got mine. Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth.
So I would say for 2024, my favorite game, the game that mostly stands out for me was actually Banishers: Ghosts of New Eden. Just because, I mean, it was one where that was being done by the same people that did the original Life is Strange. So
it was Don't Nod, wasn't it?
Yeah. That was my favorite of 2024 because it had this really rich story. It had it was, again, like you were saying, it just hits you in the feels like out of nowhere. I kind of went into it thinking, what is this going to be? This is just going to be another epic fantasy, da da da. But then it's like as soon as you're watching it, or as soon as you're playing it, you're just like, I want to keep going. Like I couldn't wait to get off work and start streaming because
you do totally get invested in those stories and finding out why these people died, and then you hit those moral decisions of, okay, do I banish them or do I ascend them? And it's like, okay, how is this going to fuck up my story, or is this going to help my story? Or and yeah, I mean that was a good game as well. I like I said, it's one of my top 5 in 2024.
And some of them, they did horrible things, and then once you find out why, you're just like, wow, back up against the wall. Okay,
right. Rock in a hard place.
So, and there was like the very first guy, when it was like he turned to cannibalism and stuff like that and everything, and I was just like, wow, don't know where to go with that. He seems remorseful, but dude, and
friend.
yeah, and you did this to your own friend, dude. But the friend forgives you. But should we? It's like I can't tell you how many times I just sat here going like,
Oh yeah,
this is
I
fictional game.
I streamed that on the short-lived Glimish platform. No, not even Glimish. I've been on so many different platforms. LiveSpace, and that was one of those where I would sit there and it's like, the screen is just sitting there waiting for you to make your decision. And I'm like, well, on the one hand, and then you go off on like a 5-minute thing and you're like, but ...
Yeah.
And so,
yeah, another one that I had a little trouble with though, I wouldn't say this is least favorite, but one that I enjoyed, but kind of could have gone without was, earlier in January, they had Silent Hill: A Short Message, which was a little short game that they had Konami had made about with Silent Hill. And
I never even played it.
Yeah, well, it's free on the PlayStation, and it sounds like they were really just putting that out there to see where it would go. My biggest problem with it was, I know Japanese culture tends to do this, but if you were playing the game, it almost seems to glorify suicide.
Oh, really?
Or unaliving, I guess I should say, for YouTube. Yeah, so that, but I mean, with the overall message, if you can look past that, it actually does have a pretty good story to it. I really enjoyed that one. Let's see, for the rest of this year, I always forget what came out last year, what came out this year. Let's see, I know I was playing Alan Wake 2 this year, and I know that came out October of last year. That one I was having a ton of fun with. Trying to think what else came out this year. I'm actually going through a list that I have pulled up.
I tried pulling one up earlier, and I was just like, Yeah,
there's just so many that came up, and I didn't have time to put this all together throughout the week just because at work we've been so slammed. But I would say, yeah, that those were the ones that really stick out in my mind as the best games of 2024. I can't say for what do you call it? Oh, Hellblade. That was another one. That was another one of my top favorites. I know Microsoft just said recently that they think they made a mistake not putting it on PlayStation, and I'm just like,
No,
well,
you think?
you can rectify that because the first one was on PlayStation.
Yeah.
So you can rectify that, put it on there. That was that was actually, I would say, one of my personal games of the year. I don't know it'd be the game of the year, but it was definitely one of my favorites. Did you play that one?
Not the second one yet. Not yet.
Okay.
Christmas is asking about best retro game. I didn't play too many retro games, to be honest with you. I did just start the Dragon Quest 3 remaster, and what I've played of that so far is pretty damn good. But I didn't really play too many retro games.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't play a whole lot of retro games this year. I will say that some of those some of those retro games that they were showing at the Game Awards looked pretty good, but I personally have not played a ton of them. Another personal.
Well, would you consider, okay, so when you say retro game, would you consider a new game done in retro style a retro game as well? Because if that's the case, then I played what is it, Udian Chronicles or whatever, which is like the not Sudoku, that's the puzzle game. Sequoiden series RPGs where you can have up to 100 different characters. And then they actually came out with it's like a 16-bit side scroller of Ash versus the Evil Dead, and what was the other one? Was it Friday the 13th? I don't remember, but it's like a 2-pack, and they're like 16-bit side scrolling games. So I don't know. Okay, so he's talking about old games from the 80s and 90s.
Oh, from the 80s and 90s, I would say my favorite then would be the original Mario. Pretty much anything in the original Mario up until Nintendo 64. Anything Mario, really. I would say one of the hidden gems that anytime I mention, it seems like nobody knows what I'm talking about. There's two games that I was absolutely obsessed with when I was a kid. There was one called eSWAT, and there was another one called Snake Rattle and Roll.
Okay, I definitely know Snake Rattle and Roll.
Yeah.
eSWAT sounds familiar.
Yeah, it was like this cybernetic, kind of like a RoboCop kind of thing, but it was like you were fighting against a bunch of aliens and stuff like that.
Okay.
And then depending on how far you want to get, into the newer generations, if you want to go up to like the PS2, and some of these, I'd say Burnout, Road Rash, those actually I would not mind seeing remasters for. Those were always fun for me.
Road Rash had kind of like a reboot called Road Redemption, but that was hot ass. I mean, I played the game I was laughing because I probably played the game for like half an hour and I got 11 achievements on the Xbox in that half hour, and I'm like, this is ridiculous. But I guess you could say I haven't got yet, but I've been meaning to pick up the new Legacy of Kain remasters. And then one that I actually enjoyed, even though the remake didn't do that well, was, do you remember Mutant League Football?
I remember.
They did a remake of that, and they're making a second one. The first one was pretty good, but it didn't sell that well in the eyes of like the general public. But I would love to see a new Mutant League Hockey as well.
And I was a big fan when I was a kid. I was a big fan of a lot of the Disney games. And playing some of those now is even just as difficult as
oh god, I'm just gonna come right out and say this: fuck the Lion King, because that game, I'm pretty sure I broke at least 3 controllers playing that one.
Mm-hmm. A
So
little gamer rage going on.
just a little.
Yeah,
That was before I went, you know what? I could be better off just punching this pillow that's sitting next to me and not breaking controllers. But
that one, Aladdin. Aladdin wasn't as difficult, but that one was a lot of fun.
well, that depends on which version of Aladdin you were playing. The Genesis version was awesome. The Super Nintendo one sucked.
I was doing the Genesis.
There you go. So you were playing the right one. So
but yeah, that was fun. DuckTales, and I know they did a remaster on that. Was it about a decade ago? But I want to say like 2011.
it wasn't that long ago, I don't think, because it was on PS4.
And actually, the guy that did the voice of Scrooge McDuck was actually, I think now he's the oldest video game voice actor because he came back and did the voice of Scrooge McDuck for the remaster.
Yep, I remember that.
And I don't know, that might have been his last work.
I think it was. I think he actually passed during production, but all his lines had been recorded.
Yeah. Those were always fun. Snake, Rattle, and Roll. When I was a kid, man, I was obsessed with that game. And I remember like telling kids at school, like, "No, I've got to play Snake, Rattle, and Roll," and they'd be like, "No, we got to play, whatever, Contra. We got to play this. We got to play that."
Atari Warriors.
Yeah, and I'd be like, "Those games are awesome too. Snake, Rattle, and Roll is what I'm obsessed with now."
This is the hill I am dying on right now. Leave me alone.
Mm-hmm.
No, speaking of retro and remasters, one I did pick up. This didn't come out this year, but the Ninja Turtles Cowabunga collection, and that fucking Nintendo game as well. The seaweed swimming level.
I remember the first time I did that, I had so much trouble. But then once I learned how to get around it, and I'd play the game again, and I'd be like, do.
You're like, I can do this with one eye closed.
Technically, I do.
I know. That's why I made that joke.
Connor's making fun of me. No. But yeah, those were always fun. I remember when people would be like, "Hey, what video games did you get?" And I'd be like, "Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Turtles in Time," and they'd think it was 2 different games. And I'd be like, "No, it's one game. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Turtles in Time." Yeah, I was obsessed with video games as a kid, so I can tell you all those. Another one that I enjoyed this year was one by Supermassive called The Casting of Frank Stone. That's one that I'm on my second playthrough of it right now.
And you still haven't touched Doki Doki.
I bought it. I will get to it. I know I'm a horrible person. I will get to Doki Doki. I'm actually I'm considering playing that one next. Most likely will.
How many times have I heard that now? Since Halloween?
But yeah, I got sick. I'm sorry. I even had to go have a procedure done. So, but I got to ask you, you talked about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Did you play Shredder's Revenge?
I did. I played that one with my kids. Okay. You know what? I really, really liked it right up until that boss battle. Because there's a trophy for beating Shredder without taking any damage. And that one, if I was younger, I would have snapped my controller because Shredder is a cheap bastard in that game.
And now you're trying to teach your kids that controllers cost money.
Yeah. So, but having said that, it is a good game. I haven't played that new one that I guess is like a quasi sequel to Mutant Mayhem.
Unleashed.
Yeah, I haven't played that one yet, but
all right.
The Shredder's Revenge was pretty good.
Yeah, because I was actually just going to ask you about Unleashed. If you'd played that one, it looked good, I thought.
Yeah, it looked good. The boys saw the trailer for it today, but I don't know if they want it or not yet. They're in this weird phase right now where they say they like other things, but all they do is fucking Minecraft. And I am so sick of hearing about Minecraft. And like otherwise they will play the Lego games occasionally. They do like that new Lego Horizon Adventure one, but if it's not Minecraft, they don't really want to pay any attention to it.
Okay, so I know that your kids are, I think your oldest is 11. Did you let them play the original Horizon, or have they not played that yet?
They haven't played that yet. They would probably think it's too hard.
Okay.
And if they aren't like for the longest time, it was nothing but Legos. And then any of the Lego games, even games that my wife and I had already beaten, they would go back and play 100 times over.
Hmm.
And now it's just Minecraft. And I wouldn't have that bad of a problem with it if they actually played the game. But all they do is they go into the creator mode. So I mean, you can't even die. They're, like the monsters don't mean diddly squat,
Hmm.
and they just run around. It's not like they even build things. They just run around, and then they'll like input like 100,000 different cheats, and then just run around. I'm like, play the game. I am. No, you're not. You're just running around. I don't know. I'm getting to that old man yells at a cloud stage, So
Oh wow! And I see here, Chris Mix is gifting all kinds of subs to people here. Thank you very much for that. He's got the hype train going on.
awesome.
Yeah, thank you
Awesome.
very much. I don't know. It doesn't seem like it's showing up on this side that we can both see, but it is showing up on my personal Twitch here. But
Yeah,
yeah,
all I can see is his chat in my
thank,
side.
thank you very much for that, Chris Mix. You are awesome. He's just gifting tears left and right.
Oh damn.
Gifting subs. Thank you,
Get
thank
that
you.
money. Get that money. Maybe I should start streaming more.
Whatever
So,
happened? You don't stream anymore. It doesn't seem like.
I know. I need to you say Mario, I gift subs. I know. And the funniest thing is that I even said with my new work schedule, I plan on streaming more, and I do. I just, uh, I just need to get over. It's kind of like people who say they're going to exercise in the new year. I got to get over that first like 2 week slump and
Mm,
actually, fucking commit to doing it. And I know that once I get back into it and start doing it, it's going to come more naturally. It's just a matter of me getting up off my lazy ass and doing it.
mm.
So yes, I do plan on streaming more. Probably not till the new year.
It's kind of like some streamers who say that they'll play Doki Doki Literature Club and then haven't
Yeah,
done it yet.
yeah,
Yeah.
See, you get it.
Yeah, and I do. I've got it. I'm going to download. Let me get through my second playthrough of Frank Stone, and then yes, I will play it.
And about 8 more playthroughs of Mario, and
Well, I mean, I looked up how many endings does the casting of Frank Stone have, and it was like there are 15 different endings. I'm like, yep, not doing that. The cool thing about this game though is once you play it all the way through once, they have this thing called the cutting room floor, so you can go back to any point in time and make a different decision and then play out the rest of the game. So you can get
okay,
all those things. And I'm like, you know what? Last time I ended up killing just about everybody by complete accident. This time I'm going to make sure that everybody survives, because if I end up killing somebody, I can reverse it.
so it's kind of like of course now I can't remember the name of the company that does it, but like Heavy Rain and Beyond Two Souls and all that, where you can go back and choose to start from the chapter again.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and each decision that you make affects the outcome. It's actually made by the same company that does those Dark Pictures anthology games. Have
Okay.
you ever played those?
I have.
Yeah, it's not in the Dark Pictures anthology, but it plays identical to it. A lot of people are like very similar. I'm like, no, it's identical. It's you run away and you get scared, and it's more atmospheric driven, and there's jump scares. But you know what? It's kind of like teen horror, but it works. It's just fun.
Like Until Dawn and
Yeah,
The
it's
Chant and all that.
same people. And
Okay.
I'm really hoping that Until Dawn, they have a movie coming out for that, and I'm like, I really hope the whole thing with that was the decisions you made were what affected the outcome.
Mhm.
Now they're talking about making a movie, and I'm like, a movie might not capture the essence of it
No.
because the whole thing was the decision I made affected the outcome. It's not like I can make the decision in the movie.
Right.
So,
Right.
and
Moo.
Moo.
You know, one that you had streamed a while back that I need to go back and actually finish is As Dusk Falls.
Mm-hmm.
When we're talking about multiple branching paths, that one I need to finish. One that did this game come out this year? It's like it's another branching path one, but it's like a musical RPG.
Oh, I think you're not talking about Hi-Fi Rush, are you?
No. God, what is it called? It's got gods in the title.
I don't know.
I'm looking it up, but that game was actually really fun. Another one that has branching paths. Felicia Day does a voice in it.
There was a game that came out recently that had like the voice of Vanilla Ice and like Chuck Norris was in it. Like I think all of the budget went to paying for these big celebrities.
Stray Gods.
Stray
Stray
Gods.
Gods. Yes, that is the game. Nope, that one came out in 2023. But that was it was weird because it's one of those kind of like another choose your own adventure type games. But I can't remember if it's got the poster boy of voices. Troy Barker, I think, is in it.
Mm-hmm.
It's either him or Nolan, one of the two.
Yeah.
But like I said, Felicia Day is in it. But it's weird because it's a musical. And like the boss battles are done in musical style and they're like singing at each other, but then you get to choose like what the next verse is and the style of music will change up and stuff. It's really neat how they did it, and you should check that one out if you ever get a chance. Put it on your
Okay.
list for next year. So
There's a lot of good games coming out next year.
there really is.
Like this seemed to be kind of a lackluster year, I mean, there were, don't get me wrong, there were a handful of good games like the ones we were talking about here, but and honestly, I can't say for like things like Life is Strange Double Exposure, for the new Silent Hill, because I just haven't played them yet. I haven't played the new Indiana Jones.
I've started that one. I did start that one.
Everyone that I talk to says it's amazing. Like it's the Indiana Jones experience.
What I've played so far has been great, and was it Troy who did the voice?
Yeah, Troy Baker. Yep.
Yeah, I was going to say Troy does a fantastic job. He's spot on of Harrison Ford. So
yeah, I don't know if you saw me doing the whole fangirl thing.
Yeah, I saw. We discussed that last week. So
like, holy shit! And honestly, I thought it was going to be George Lucas that walked out on stage, but then it was Harrison Ford, and I'm like,
he's probably too busy counting his money.
Yeah,
trying to figure out more ways to ruin movies.
Well, I don't know. We can't even say that it was George Lucas that ruined the Star Wars lately. It's been Disney, because he pretty much sold it all to Disney.
Yeah. So he's too busy counting his money.
Mm-hmm.
His Disney bucks.
I wouldn't have had so many problems with what was that, the Alkalite, if they hadn't tried to force things like I don't care about DEI stuff. That's fine. You wanna say the boss chick stuff, that I don't care about all that. That's if that's the way the story is gonna go, cool. But don't tell me that the Force is female. It's like the whole thing was the Force.
I thought they were midi-chlorians.
Yeah, it's like that was already based on this whole thing, and now you're trying to say the Force is like
Mother Nature,
gendered, and it's like, that's where I was like, he lost me here.
Right? This is just piss poor writing.
Mm-hmm. And that's what a lot of this stuff with Star Wars seems to be, and then they blame the fans, and it's like it's not the fans' fault. It's you're hiring all these people that have that a lot of them have said, "Oh, I never saw a Star Wars movie," or "I've never been a Star Wars fan." It's like, well, then why are you writing a Star Wars show?
Right?
You should
When do
let
we bring in
something.
Worf?
It's like so then Gandalf tells Harry to use the Force.
Right? I am Groot.
And then the Force says, "I am Groot." Yes. It's like, no, stop it. No, but yeah, so I mean, I'm really looking forward to next year. Is there a specific game that you're really looking forward to next year? I've got
I've
a
got
few.
3 off the top of my head. And I mean, I don't even know if they're going to be next year. Some of them probably aren't even going to be till 2026. But Witcher 4, Borderlands 4, and Intergalactic.
Intergalactic is 2026.
Yeah, like I said, that would surprise me if that one was 2025. But that one's on my radar for sure. But then, like I said, Witcher 4 and Borderlands 4. Oh, and Outer Worlds 2.
Okay.
So
Grand Theft Auto 6 is the big one for me. Just because I have waited so long for Grand Theft Auto 6. What I really get upset about though is it seems like we got Grand Theft Auto 5 and we got that 3 times. And then we got Red Dead Redemption 2. Great game, don't get me wrong. And then we got a PC port of Red Dead Redemption before we got anything else. And then you announced Grand Theft Auto 6. And it's like, wait a second. It seems like you've only got 2 games now. You still could do Bully 2. Yeah, the crowd still wants that.
Give me a new Manhunt.
Yeah, Manhunt 3. Could you imagine Manhunt today?
Oh God, it would be amazing. It'd be amazing
with today's graphics.
Yeah, it'd be fantastic.
Or give us LA Noire 2, or hey, whatever happened to Agent that you were hyping up back in 2006?
Wasn't that like a PS3 game?
Yeah,
like initially.
Supposed to be a PS3 game. Yeah, I would want to say it was supposed to come out like mid-life PS3.
Yeah.
Nothing ever came of that. Whatever happened to that substantial single-player DLC that we were supposed to get for Grand Theft Auto 5? That would have been Grand Theft Auto 5, and yet you just took it and then made it part of online. I don't care about always playing online.
Right.
It's like I want to play these single-player stuff. But I'd really like to see Bully, and if I had a choice to say what I'd like to see in Bully, I honestly wouldn't mind seeing a female bully because we've seen it from the male bully side, and it's not even a bully. We're more standing up to bullies, but
Mean Girls.
Yeah,
you just want Mean Girls, the video game.
That's about what it would be too. We could do it from a female side, or if you want to do it from like Jimmy Hopkins' kids side, or some whatever way they want to go with it. Just give me Bully too.
Right. Or what about? Did they do? No, they didn't because they had GTA. Who did The Getaway?
I know that was
Wasn't that a Sony?
It was a Sony exclusive. Maybe it was Sony, like an in-house studio for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be cool because there was 2 games for that. There was The Getaway and there was The Getaway Black Monday.
Mm-hmm.
Let me check that one. No, I don't want the 1972 film. The Getaway PS2. Let's see who was the developer on that. Developed by Team Soho, and published exclusively for Sony Entertainment System.
Yeah, that would have been a new game for that.
And
I had another one for 2024.
Team Soho was shut down though, so I don't know. Sony's still got to own the IP for it.
The new Yakuza game, that one I'm also looking forward to. The Pirates of Hawaii or whatever it is.
Oh yeah,
that one I'm looking forward to.
I am also looking forward to Reanimal. That was one that was shown during Xbox's showcase for developers. That is one that looks a lot like Little Nightmares.
Okay.
And then on top of that, we have Little Nightmares 3 coming out next year too.
I've never played any of those.
Oh, those are great. They are.
I've watched you stream them, but I've never played them.
It will screw with your head.
You know what else will? Doki Doki.
Yes, yeah, I've heard.
I'm going to circle back to that every time I can.
I'm not going to live it down until I play that, am I?
Nope. Nope. I'm going to send you random text messages at like 2 a.m. Have you played Doki Doki yet?
I'm going to be like, Connor, I'm sleeping. Like, well, you shouldn't be sleeping. You should be playing Doki Doki.
No sleep, Doki.
You know, I've seen some gameplay footage for that, and it's like, you know, the girl talking about what she does with that pen that her boyfriend let her borrow, and I'm just in there like, what on earth are you trying to get me to play?
Oh, there's so much more.
I'm sure a lot of people are just, you know, want to put that one up for shock value, but I'm like, how much worse does it get? Probably a lot. ... But yeah, so Grand Theft Auto is definitely my big one. I'm also looking forward to Mafia: The Old Country. Doom: The Dark Ages. I would not be surprised if that got pushed to 2026. Just be honest, but also I would say this is another one I wouldn't be surprised if it got pushed to 2026, but I'm hoping it doesn't. Was Marvel 1943: Rise of Hydra.
Is that that's the one that's being written by the former Last of Us writer, right?
Yeah, Amy Hennig. She's the writer and director, and I think executive producer on it. Yeah, and that's the one it follows Black Panther, the original Black Panther, and Captain America before he was frozen.
Okay.
And then go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say I remember seeing a trailer for it, like a teaser trailer, and nothing since.
Yeah, I think they were really just putting that out to get the hype up. But yeah, that one looked good. And then also, what was that other one? There's a new Dark Pictures coming out too. Dark Pictures anthology. It's called Directive 8020. That's going to be another one like the casting of Frank Stone. I'm kind of looking forward to that. And then also, if you were a fan of Cuphead, I'm also somewhat looking forward to Mouse PI for Hire.
That's the first-person shooter, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that looks awesome.
So,
okay, hear me out. What do you think the possibility of a drop for the next Elder Scrolls?
That I will highly doubt that'll be 2025, but I'll bet that's a 2026 release. So I'm saying it's probably 40% positive that it won't drop in 2025. You never know what Microsoft's going to do, though.
Right. And then here's my follow-up question. When do you personally think GTA 6 is going to launch?
I would not be surprised to see Grand Theft Auto launch third quarter 2025.
So you're thinking holiday?
Yeah, well,
possibly?
Yeah, holiday or just pre-holiday. And I'm thinking that because if you look at like their history of how they release things, a lot of times they'll tell you it's going to be in the spring, and then it comes out closer to Halloween.
Right.
They have a history.
I'm just curious because you've got all these other games that are coming out in that year, and you had sent me that article about devs saying they don't want to release certain games because of the hype of going up against GTA 6.
Mm-hmm.
But if GTA 6 does not give a date, do you then gamble and release your game, or do you wait for more solid information? And I seriously think that if GTA doesn't announce a release date, a lot of games may be pushed back to 2026 because they don't want to go against GTA 6. And I also, one of the main reasons why I didn't list GTA 6 as one of my most anticipated games is because of the fact that, in my opinion, it's not going to live up to the hype that it has built around itself. And plain and simple, it's going to piss a lot of people off because it's not what they expected.
Right. I can see that, especially that's the thing when you got a product like this that has so much hype around it. There's only two options it can go. It can exceed everyone's expectations and blow you out of the water, or not. You know,
And that's the funniest thing. That's like using, for example, the new Dragon Age that just came out not too long ago. I get people are pissed about the whole wokeness and all of that crap, and to an extent, that's whatever level you want to take it as. But
Mhm.
I actually got into a conversation with a guy today that was like, I want to play it, and I'm only interested in it because it has the Dragon Age title. He's
Mhm.
like, it doesn't look like a Dragon Age game. And I'm like, okay, well, what does a Dragon Age game look like?
Mhm.
Because it looks to me, it checks off all the check boxes that Inquisition had, and I'm just like, what are you trying to say? And
Mhm.
so I get that argument of people go where they're like, oh, it's not a Dragon Age game because
XYZ.
yeah, and it's like, okay, so it doesn't meet your expectations because of that. That I can understand.
Mhm.
But because it's like it's got pronouns, okay, and you know,
The world has pronouns.
exactly. Anytime you say, "What time are they coming over?"
Mhm.
Pronoun, so
I
But
did that as a kid. I'd be like, "Oh, my friend's coming over." My mom would say, like, "Oh, okay. What time are they coming over?" It's like,
mhm. Or hell,
never
even
even
if
thought
one,
anything.
even if one friend was coming over, well, when's he getting here?
Mhm.
Okay, just whatever. It's stupid.
Mm.
I'm not gonna go into it because we'll be here all goddamn night.
Yeah, we actually when I was on the podcast last week with Justin, that was something that we discussed as well, and it was just like, okay, pronoun, you know what, I'll call you whatever you want me to call you, let's just have fun, because
Right.
isn't that what gaming is supposed to be about when it comes
Yep.
down to it? It's about having fun, it's about forgetting your worries for a while. And if somebody wants to be called they while they're playing a game, cool, I'll call you a they.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like when that whole controversy came out about on Doctor Who when Jodie Foster was the first female doctor,
Mhm.
and people were getting pissed off about that. And my wife was like, I'm sad because the two-hearted alien isn't a male. It's like, never mind the fact that it's an alien, but it's,
Mhm.
who regenerates a different image every time. But oh my God, there's no dick, So,
Oh, there's a dick. It's just the one watching the show.
right. The one that's pissed off about it. So, but
uh, yeah, and I mean, so in some ways, I can, and we won't go too far into this, but in some ways, like this is what I said when I was playing as Miles Morales in the Spider-Man game. I'm cool if you create a character that's original. Like with Miles Morales, they didn't just give you a black and Latino Peter Parker. They gave you Miles Morales, and I mean um, he was correct. They painstakingly made it that it followed that heritage. And I was like, and he's got his own personality, he's got his own problems, he's relatable in his own way. I mean, and he sits there and he can compete with Peter Parker. I mean, did you play Spider-Man 2? he
no,
can
I did
go
not.
he can go toe to toe with with the best of them. He's being trained. He can stand on his own. And you know what? If you were to tell me a story, the whole reason that Spider-Man Miles Morales works so well is because they were building this character from the ground up. I'm like, give me that, but don't necessarily give me a female Peter Parker and tell me it's the same character, and then change everything about what we've known. Don't don't do that. Give me original characters. That's all I'm asking for. You've got this idea about, hey, what if Peter Parker was a woman? Great. Why don't you give me a woman character? You can make her
Mhm.
very similar to Peter Parker. You can make the personality pretty similar, but give her own personality.
Right.
That's just where
Which
yeah.
is like what, Gwen basically was in the multiverse Spider-Man
Mm-hmm.
movies, and but she had her own backstory, she had her own, you know,
Mm-hmm.
thing. So,
It's basically taking creativity and just working off something that's already established and creating something new from it. That's all I'm asking that you do. I
right.
don't even care if it's original from the ground up. I mean, Miles Morales from the ground up, but I mean, he's got the core Spider-Man powers. Okay, well, that's where we started. Miles Morales. Okay, this is who he is. This is you know, that's what I like. I don't know. Maybe I'm alone on that, but that's what I like.
I agree. I agree.
But then everybody goes like, "Oh no, you have to call Peter a they or them," and I'm like, "No, Peter has always been a he."
Peter is Peter.
Mm-hmm. Miles is Miles, and I don't care if you want to introduce a transgender character, I'll call him whatever, but make it original.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, then I know we kind of got off into a little tangent there.
One of many.
Yes. What would you say was your worst game of 2024? Concord.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing about that. We'll use that. We'll use that. I loved that game.
Oh, you really liked Concord?
I loved that game.
All right, guys. We found the guy.
Yeah, I'm the one person who bought it. I played the beta. I loved it. And I don't normally like games like that. Like, I can't stand Overwatch. Mm-hmm. I can't stand Valorant. I can't stand Apex Legends. Something about Concord I loved. And having said that, the new Marvel Rivals, that one's pretty damn fun. Mm-hmm. I mean, even though it is just essentially Overwatch with Marvel skins. But for whatever reason, I like that one. But yeah, I liked Concord. And it's a shame that what happened to it did. I get why it happened. That, it wasn't selling. It wasn't anything different than what was already available for free. I get why people were mad about having to pay for it. But on the other hand, I didn't have a problem paying for it because of the fact that when you were playing the game, the people you were playing against, you knew they paid money. So they were there to play that game. You didn't have the toxicity that you see in Overwatch because it's free. You didn't have it that you see in Apex Legends because it's free. The people dropped $40 on this game. They're going to play it. Mm-hmm. So yeah, was it my worst? Yeah, probably. But I enjoyed it. I mean, and Brian, our friend Brian, will argue up and down with me because I absolutely loved back in the day that game Alpha Protocol. And I actually convinced him to buy it. And he's like, dude, this is the fucking worst game I have ever played. What is wrong with you? So, I mean, maybe I just don't know. I enjoyed Concord.
So, I mean, you say that it was great. He says it sucks. So,
now what we have here is a failure to communicate.
Sorry, I had to.
A lot of things in the video game industry. So,
a lot of our audience is going to hear that you liked Concord, and they're just going to be like,
yep, pretty much.
So,
yeah, my opinion is no longer good because I like Concord.
No, I mean,
I also have the highly controversial Metroid Prime sucks. There you have it. Metroid Prime sucks. So that's.
Move this man.
Yeah, I don't care.
No. I've actually talked to a few people who have said Concord wasn't that bad, or that Concord was actually a game that they were looking forward to playing. Honestly, in a case like this, I think what Sony really should have done, don't make it free. If you're going to play, because that was the thing, is like they were. Where a lot of people say it failed was it was basically a $40 version of a free game that was already out. But it was like, okay, and I can see on a business standpoint where that might be true, but at the same time, it seemed like it was trying to go for a more mature audience.
Yeah.
I mean, it was goofy, it was T-rated, but it was trying to say, hey, the ones, like you said, the ones that threw down the money were the ones that were there to play. And I honestly think they should have, instead of just shutting it down 2 weeks later, I mean, why not go in there and fix it? Why not address the concerns of the audience and try to make that?
That's where I have an issue, is because I totally agree with you on that. And this, and this leads into the whole conspiracy things of, oh, it was a tax write-off for Sony. Okay, they just did it and swept it under the carpet, kind of like that. What was it? Warner Bros. Pulled that movie, the Wile E. Coyote movie or whatever.
Oh wow, was that Acme, Wile E. Coyote versus Acme or something like that?
Something like that, and it'll never see the light of day. Or for another example, the Hawk-Tuah girl with her Bitcoin. That thing tanked and she's just disappeared. Like, nobody knows where she's at, and there's now rumors circulating that she's dead, and like, and so, I can see why they would say, oh, Sony just released it as a write-off. They said they said they were able to release a game. Here's the money, and or something. But because I seriously think that they should have gone in, fixed the few things, definitely change up some of the character designs. I will totally agree with that. And then release it as a free to play, because the core gameplay itself was solid.
Yeah. So do you believe that it was a write-off?
I honestly don't know. Theory? I honestly don't know, because on the one hand, yeah, I could see why they would say that. But on the other hand, why would you sink this much fucking money into it in the first place only to pull it 2 weeks later?
Yeah. Oh, see, and you mentioned Warner Brothers. I mean, the whole thing with Warner Brothers, we understand that that happens sometimes with movies, but they did it, like, I want to say 3 or 4 times with fully developed movies. And it was Wile E. Coyote versus Acme was one of them. I think Scoob was another one that they had, which was supposed to be like an origin story for Scooby and Shaggy. And now they're saying that one might see the light of day, but I mean, Warner Brothers is like, nah, we'll see. And then it sounds like they're from what it sounds like, they're throwing it out to Netflix and Hulu, but they're putting it at such a high market point that there's no way that anybody that picked it up would make any kind of a profit on it.
Gotcha.
So they're not negotiating in good faith. They're negotiating to look good to the stockholders. And then the other one was Batgirl. That was another one that they had fully done. And I think they said they were done with like most of the post-production on it. They just had maybe like a month more worth of work to do, if even that much. And they just pulled it. They were like, nope, this sucks. And they're trying to blame the Warner Brothers Discovery merger for that one. And I'm like, no, you don't have a fully done superhero movie that's supposed to be, a tent pole in the DCU, and just say, oh, sorry, because we merged, they don't want it anymore. So I mean, people were looking at that like, okay, and I think it happened to another movie too, and it was like, wait, and they're all done by Warner Brothers. What's going on here? Why are 3 or 4 high profile movies suddenly being pulled?
Right, by the same company.
Yeah, so that's why people thought it was going to be like that for Warner Brothers. Sony, this is the first time I know, and I get it. There's projects get canceled all the time. And sometimes those projects are almost done. This isn't anything new in the industry, but when you've already got the product out and then you pull it because, oh, sorry, the players hate it. The players, honestly, how many games come out and get ripped apart right to begin with and then get a huge following months later or years later?
Didn't even have to go.
They didn't even give this one a chance.
No. But yeah, so what about you? What was your worst?
So I would say the worst one I played was Doki Doki.
Motherfucker. I set myself up for that one.
No, so I really didn't have a whole lot of bad ones, but I would say the worst one that I had was actually that free game that I was talking to you about earlier, Silent Hill. Not Silent Hill 2, but what was that?
The little short story one.
Yeah, that short story one that they did right at the beginning of the year. And that wasn't even necessarily a bad game. That was just one that I really got. I get it. Games can make you uncomfortable, but that was one that it almost seemed to glorify self unaliving. We'll say for YouTube. Yeah, it was Silent Hill: The Short Message. And that's where I really had problems with it because I mean they were talking about this person did we'll just say that to themselves, and it was it used to be known that doing that was one of the highest forms of of self-sacrifice.
Mm-hmm.
And you were ascended to the highest form of heaven. And I was like, that is not really the message you should be putting out to depressed people.
Right. Right. Did it come with a lot of warnings beforehand?
Oh yeah, that was like anytime you moved into like the next mission, it was plastered with trigger warnings. And I mean, I would say no less than probably 8 or maybe even 12 times they put that trigger warning up. And I'm like, so they knew what they were doing,
Right.
And I don't know much about Japanese history in general. I don't know all about every single part of Japanese lore. So maybe that was accurate to how they saw things back then.
Mm-hmm.
But really, when you think of the mental health crisis that goes on now, and then you put that kind of thing out and you're like, even with all those trigger warnings, that could very easily send someone that's already on that edge. But again, I understand artistic expression. I understand it's the story that they're trying to tell. It put me off a little bit. But I would say that was probably, even though you'll see me saying that I like the game, I would say that was my worst gaming experience, just because I was not comfortable with that.
Okay.
It's just a self-comfort level.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yep. But yeah, there was a lot more to this year than games. I would say music-wise, my favorite album that came out this year, The Death of Slim Shady, if we're gonna talk about music there.
Okay. I have 2 that dropped this year that I really liked. The new Cure album was really, really good. And then like I had talked about them earlier, Tubring had a new album come out, and that one is really, really good. So
yeah, I would say
and as controversy aside, the new Marilyn Manson CD is a return to top form. The last few albums he's put out were one good song here, one good song there. This new album, it's really good.
It's a return to form, as you said.
It is a return to form. Yes.
It seems like a lot of artists did that, because you had Eminem do that with The Death of Slim Shady, bringing Slim Shady back, and then you had Marilyn Manson doing that. It's kind of sad that it's sad, but like kind of funny in a dark way. It's like, how is Eminem coming out being the one that's the good guy in all of this?
Trent Reznor. I mean, you want to talk about going from A to B. Mm-hmm. That dude, and here's the thing. In high school, I loved 9 Inch Nails. Mm-hmm. I was the guy that, like, I have pictures somewhere, but I had my walls were plastered. Anytime 9 Inch Nails was in a magazine, I would buy 2 copies of the magazine, one to read the articles and one to cut out all the pictures and hang up on my wall. I had posters all over. I mean, every t-shirt in my closet was a 9 Inch Nails t-shirt.
Oh, you were one of those, huh?
Oh God, I was a closeted 9 Inch Nails fan. And as he got older and sobered up, in my opinion, I thought his albums got weaker. Mm-hmm. And I'm still a firm believer that his last really good 9 Inch Nails album, in my opinion, was The Fragile, which is the one where he basically realized, I need to get my shit together. Mm-hmm. And that album, commercially, was actually a flop, but critically acclaimed. And I've always made the joke, I just need Trent to go on like a 4-day binge of anything and everything and just put out one more downward spiral.
We should probably put on here, we do not condone drug use.
Right? But having said that, some of the stuff he's putting out now, as non Nine Inch Nails is really damn good. Like the music that he did for Tron, the music that I've heard from that trailer for Intergalactic. You know, the Disney Pixar had that. What was that? Soul? Was it Soul?
Yeah.
And he did the music for Soul. And you know, and he even did what was the movie about Facebook?
Oh, The Social Network.
The Social Network. I think he won a fucking Oscar for that. You know, so it's weird because that's a case of separating the artist from the music, and I just want nostalgic. I just want one more downward spiral, you know. But there's a man that started out very controversial. That this day and age, it's like who knew, you know.
Right.
So
we're getting a lot of that this year. It seemed like, I mean, Snoop Dogg, Flavor Flav,
ICP.
Who knew that the ones that our parents grounded us for and said, get that trash out of my house, were going to be the ones that are actually like the wholesome humanity?
Well, it's like that one meme that I saw, the TV dads, and like all of them have the controversy now, like Bill Cosby and all that, except for Al Bundy. Like, who knew that Al Bundy was the father to strive to be, like just, but
well, what controversy did Reginald have, the guy from Family Matters? Did he have any?
I don't think so.
No,
I don't know. I know there was some sort of controversy for that show, though, or for one of the actors. I thought maybe, but I don't know.
Eddie was,
Eddie was a bad boy.
Yeah, well, from what I understand, he had a daughter, and then he was part of this. I think he was one of the founders, or his father founded this thing about like for fathers to be part of their daughters' lives or part of their kids' lives, and then he fell back on like child support payments. Now, he says that the reason that he did that was because he found out that a lot of the money that he was paying was not being used for his child, and it was the mom spending it on herself. But I'm like, yeah, but you still need to support the child in some way. Right. You can't just stop payments.
Right.
But you can negotiate for a lower payment,
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, Tubbring, Cure, and Marilyn Manson, I would have to say, were my top new albums of 2024.
Not Taylor Swift, huh?
No. No.
No, I'm not. I like her as a person, but I'm not a fan of her music, even when she was country. Yes.
I'm yeah. Yeah.
She seems cool. I'll give her that. I'm not gonna listen.
I'll listen to Baby Metal.
There you go. But yeah, and I made no qualms about it. Yeah, Eminem was my favorite. In fact, that was the album on my Spotify. The songs, the wrap up that they do. That was the number one album that I listened to, because it was just one of those. I was like, got to hear it forwards, got to hear it backwards, got to hear it this way. There's a message here somewhere, and it was just like the greatest thing with the Eminem album, The Death of Slim Shady. Everybody thought right to begin with that it was going to be just a return to form for him, which it was, especially with songs like Houdini and other ones like that. But then if you actually listen to it being a concept album and like from start to finish, it actually makes a lot of sense. And then it was one of those where it was like, how is this making me, almost cringe? Like, I can't believe he's saying this kind of stuff. And then go into like the laughter, and then and then he sings songs like Temporary, and that one that he did with Jelly Roll, and it's like, how am I crying at this now? Right. How did you do this? Damn it! So yeah, those were mine.
There's two artists. They didn't have a new album come out this year. Their last ones came out in 2023. Actually, 3 artists. But they've all put stuff out, like singles this year, that I think have new albums in the works, or I'm hoping that they have new albums in the works. And first being Oliver Tree. His stuff, I don't know if you've ever heard him other than this insanely catchy Life Goes On, but some of the stuff he puts out is really good. Ren, is phenomenal. I think you would like Ren.
Right.
A lot of people compare him to NF. A lot of people call him a British Eminem. But he's so much more than just rap. Like, he does folk, he does all sorts of different stuff, and like he plays all of these instruments. Like, he's great at piano, he's great at guitar, he's just phenomenal at singing. Um, the thing with him is that he's actually got Lyme's disease, and he was actually misdiagnosed for like 10 years and really fucked with his head, and he just had a relapse not too long ago. He's back in Canada getting treatments and stuff, but you should check him out. And then another one, the 2024 was the year of collaborations for baby metal. Like, they did stuff with Electric Callboy, and a bunch of other artists, F Hero, and I'm hoping that they have a new album coming out soon, because their collabs, while their collabs are great, their full albums are even better. They actually had one where Tom Morello did guest guitar work on it even. So I mean, they're big, and they are very gatekeeped. Like, everybody, anytime, like, because like the picture I have is from Metal Hammer, the magazine, and anytime Metal Hammer posts anything on Facebook, you got the knuckle draggers that come out, oh, metal, you know, and all of that, because it is a fusion of Japanese pop and metal, and it works. It's really weird. They do have a song in a video game, well, other than Rock Band, because they have a couple songs in Rock Band, but their first, I would say their first hit over here, and this is the one that I had first heard, and the first time I heard it, I even was like, oh, this is shit. It's a song called Gimme Chocolate. And that song was actually used in the commercials for Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, and it's actually even used in the end credits of Tiny Tina's Wonderlands.
Okay.
But I'm hoping that they have a new album coming out soon, because they are so fun live.
So, it sounds like you're listening to a lot of baby metal, and I've never really pictured you as a baby metal fan.
Just a little bit.
So yeah, gotta ask you too. There's been a lot of different movies, a lot of controversy going on with the movies as well. This year, it seems like last year was the year that Disney pretty much lost everything, and it seems like this is the year that they pretty much gained everything. So what were some of your favorite movies of this year? Now, I do have to say I haven't seen Wicked, I haven't seen Sonic, and Nosferatu doesn't come out until Christmas Day, so I can't say.
I'm gonna come out and say I'm not a big moviegoer. In fact, I can honestly say I think I saw 2 movies in the theater this year. And that was Ghostbusters, and we took the boys to see Beetlejuice.
Oh, you didn't see Deadpool in the theater?
I did not see it in the theaters. I had to wait till that came to like streaming.
Okay.
So I did see it finally, but not in the theaters. And I don't know, it's weird. New movies just don't excite me anymore. And so I'm more of a, let's put on this movie that I've watched 500 times rather than let's see what's new. Now, having said that, I still want to see the new Joker, because that's already on HBO Max. And it's in my queue. I haven't watched it yet. I also have not seen Wicked or Sonic yet. Sonic I would probably see before Wicked, but that's mainly more because of my kids.
I have got some friends who have been telling me that I absolutely have to see Wicked, and I'm just like, I will see it. I just don't know if it'll be in the theater or on streaming.
Now, I mean, I do want to see it. I will preface by saying that I've actually seen the Broadway play. I mean, not on Broadway. I saw it when it was in Chicago. So I guess in that sense, I've already seen Wicked, but I have not seen the movie. The play was fantastic. So definitely.
Yeah, because I haven't seen the play. I've heard of it, and I know pretty much everything about it. I just never actually officially saw it. But yeah, I've got friends. I've got two that are sisters that are screaming at me, going like, "You gotta see it! It's the greatest thing ever!" And I'm like, "Believe you," but I will definitely.
When I have time. When I have
Mhm.
time. Right after
Um.
Doki Doki.
So, because yeah, right after Doki. You are not gonna let me
Nope.
until I play it. So I would say this year I did see Ghostbusters. That wasn't the greatest movie ever. I don't think it lived up to legacy hype, but it was decent for what it was.
Well, here's the thing I have to say about that. I actually enjoyed that one more than the previous one. Because
Really?
the previous one, in my opinion, was let's just take the first movie and do it all over again. Yeah, I mean, you had Gozer, you had the dog, demon dogs. It's like it was essentially I was just sitting there waiting for Stay Puft to show up, you know,
So
and they had the mini Stay Puffs. So I mean, I felt okay. You're gonna reboot the movie. It was like way to think outside of, but right next to the box, you know, like just like I don't know. I enjoyed the second one more than the first one.
like they were trying to be nostalgic and just pretty much did a copy and paste instead of nostalgia.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah, I would say, and this doesn't have anything to do with the movie itself, because I did like the movie. You know, and I'm not going to say that I didn't like it. It's just we had a bad experience at that theater,
Okay.
and that was because we didn't go opening weekend. We went actually like a couple of weeks after it had been out, so we got put into one of the smaller theaters. And while we were there, it was us and there was like 7 other couples in there, I'd say, so pretty scattered. And while we were there, there was some sort of odor that was coming out, and it was like we'd get like this huge whiff of it, and it was like it was almost like a cinnamon, but it was like in your face, like, oh my god, you know. And we were like, where's this coming from? Almost like a cologne. Like you're standing next to somebody or you get in line and somebody's got like way too much cologne on.
They took a bath in it.
Yeah. And that's what we were getting, but it was like it would hit us in the face and then we'd both be sitting there like, whoa, and then it would go away. And then we were like, I think maybe it's the guy that's down there, you know, but he was like on the other side of the aisle. It's like, how can we smell it way over here? And then he got up. Him and his wife got up during the movie, and they went up because the way that our theater is designed, you have the stadium seating. So he went up to the next one, and I was like, oh, thank God he's moving. Maybe we won't smell it so much. But all throughout the movie, it would just be sitting there, nothing happening, watching the movie, enjoying the movie. Oh God, you know, watching.
Maybe it was a ghost.
Oh God. Well, what happened was I went after we went to the movie, after everything had stopped and everything. I went out there and I told Rachel, I was like, I'm going to talk to the manager about that because maybe if something. And then I asked her, I said, hey, so we were there, and I said, if somebody had asthma or something, they could have a bad allergic reaction to that.
Oh, for sure.
And she was like,
hey, Looker.
Oh, hey, Looker 204, how's it going? We had company over. Oh, no problem. We're glad that you're here. But I went out there and we talked to the usher or to the manager actually, and she said, yeah, they actually just swapped out the air fresheners that pump into the theater, and for some reason in those smaller theaters they seem to think that they need to turn it on as high as they do for the huge theaters, and they don't. And she's like, I've told them to stop. I have told them it's going to cause problems. She's like, are you okay? And I was like, yeah, I don't have asthma. It just really hurt my sinuses, you know, because it was like right in my face. And she's like, hold on a second. And I was like, okay. And she disappeared. And I'm not kidding. Like a minute and a half, she ran back over and she handed me 2 free tickets. And she's like, your next movie's on us because that's just stupid. And I'm going to yell at somebody. And she's like, somebody's getting fired, you know? And I was like, I don't know if she's doing that as a show for me,
right.
But it was pretty fun, you know?
Right. And I just thought of another movie I did see in a theater, even though it wasn't a new movie. The local theater in town, they'll show random movies at random times. And one night they did show Young Frankenstein.
Mm-hmm.
And so the wife and I went and saw Young Frankenstein in the theater. So
Yeah, next year is the 50th anniversary for the Rocky Horror Picture Show, and I've already told Rachel, I was like, they showed it midnight. I know you don't like going to shows that late at night, but we're going.
Have you ever
And
done a Rocky Horror show in the theater?
I did one time when I was in high school, and I had no idea what I was walking into. Because I was like, "Oh, Rocky Horror, that's that one with Tim Curry that's on TV," and you know, and oh, that's not that bad. I was telling my mom, I was like, "Oh, it's like PG-13," because I'd never seen the uncensored version of it. And then I get in there, and oh god, people are like screaming at the theater, they're whipping things, they're dancing in the aisles, they got all these costumes on, and I'm like, "What the hell did I walk into?" After about 20 minutes, huh?
Tell your wife to tell them that she's a virgin.
Oh yeah, but I kind of warned her. Her and I have seen Rocky Horror in the theater, but it was like a really toned down theater where people yelled out that whole asshole slut. How do you like to masturbate in an empty house? You know, like people were yelling that stuff out, but they weren't dancing in the aisles and throwing toilet paper and everything. And I was like, we need to go.
This is nothing.
I told her, I was like, you're getting the G-rated version. We need to go where it's just pandemonium.
Yeah. Where I grew up, it was DeKalb, the college town, and the old Egyptian theater. They would do Halloween midnight showings of Rocky Horror. Those were wild.
He says, how was it? How was Rocky Horror? Yeah. Well, that was the thing too. I had this one guy in there who just kept yelling out, and I know you two might get mad, but he kept yelling out, chicken fucker. You know, so eventually I started yelling back at him because he was on the other side of the room, and you know, I'm just this rebellious, just fresh out of high school kid, and I'm like, who jizzed in my popcorn? And he's like, I did. And I'm like, it's really salty. And we get the whole audience laughing. It's like, you know, if cell phones were around at that time, but that was like those old flip phones. But I'm you know what? If these existed at that time, somebody would have recorded us.
Oh, easily. I'm surprised more Rocky shows don't get recorded.
Well, probably because everybody knows what to expect.
Well, yeah, that's true.
Or they always tell you, like, you know, you can't have your phone out in the theater. And I'm like, I don't think that counts for Rocky Horror.
No, it does not.
So other movies that I saw this year, I saw Inside Out 2. That was
I haven't seen that yet.
Your kids will like that one.
They do. They've watched it. That's one that I didn't. They have a lot of movies that they've seen, but because I was at work, they're like, we'll just watch it without Dad. So yeah, they've seen that. I have not yet.
Yeah, it's that's another one. It's another emotional gut punch from Pixar. You know, I know they kind of lost their stride for a little bit. Pixar did, but I think ever since Elemental, they've kind of gotten it back. Like they've decided to make movies that they want to make, not just movies Disney wants to make money.
Gotcha.
Another great one that I saw, people, it is a little cheesy, but it is a lot of fun, was Twisters.
Haven't seen that one.
That one I looked up because I like to see how accurate those kinds of movies are to science. And it turned out they said almost everything about Twisters is accurate with the exception of the main plot, which is that they're trying to figure out a way where if you can put these things in front of a twister, you know, you can get 3D spinning. They said that part's accurate, and that actually is something that they're working on. And of course, the movie was working with the National Weather people to try and figure out how they could portray that accurately. Yeah. But where they're trying to, in the movie, what they're trying to do is trying to figure out how they could, you know, what they could put in these barrels, like those Dorothy barrels, that they could launch up to maybe destroy the twister so that it didn't hit all these towns. You know, let the ones that are in the fields just be, but the ones that are going towards the towns, can we get this here and make the twister dissipate? They were like, no, you're not going to get some sort of material up there that's going to rip a twister apart.
What do you mean Sharknado ain't real?
Yeah, but they were basically just saying that part's not real. That's all Hollywood, but the majority of the rest of it is pretty accurate.
Yeah, that's like on Big Bang Theory, the TV show. They had actual scientists on the set and stuff. So like all the formulas and shit that Sheldon would always have on the dry erase board in the in the apartment and all that, those were actual scientific equations and things like that. So
And the discussions that they would have too were actual discussions that they would have, and usually, I don't know, comedyized or
Right.
written in a way that would be funny for the average person. But the actual conversations were something that actual physicists would have with each other.
Yeah.
I did read that Jim Parsons said that he has no clue what the hell Sheldon was talking about most of the time. He was just told, here's the word and here's how you pronounce it.
Yeah.
And then he
Yeah.
had to say it as if he believed it.
Yeah. I believe that.
Maya Bialik is actually was actually a scientist, and
Yeah.
so she would actually help with
She's
a lot
like
of
a neurosurgeon or something.
yeah, something like that. But yeah, she would actually help with a lot of that, and she would apparently her and Jim Parsons would sit with a lot of their scenes because a lot of their scenes were together. But like they would sit and want to have these, and she'd be like, "Oh, this is what this means," and he'd just be like, "I don't know."
Yeah.
The word says this, and I'm going to deliver the line, and she'd be like, "Well, here's what it means," and he's like, "Sure." Yep, and then and Looker says I got alert that Cyclops guy. Where can I watch this after? You can watch this on YouTube. 1/GNDN. And I will have the links available for you. I will be putting these in the Goes Nowhere Does Nothing page, which is going to become Garbage In, Garbage Out page.
Which is pretty much what this last hour and a half has been. So
but yeah, Twisters was good. Beetlejuice. That was
here's the thing about that.
Mhm.
Right after I say that whole thing about Ghostbusters being copy paste, along comes Beetlejuice,
Mm-hmm.
which is essentially Beetlejuice. The whole angle with Charles was not necessary. That actor was a horrible person. You didn't even need to acknowledge him.
Mm-hmm.
Just, maybe in passing, yep, he's dead, we moved on. You didn't need a whole angle of Lydia trying to... Wait, Lydia, is that Winona Ryder's character or is that Catherine O'Hara's character? Lydia is Winona Ryder.
Lydia is Winona Ryder.
But anyway, you didn't need that whole angle of the mom trying to find the husband.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why Tim Burton really wanted to continue on acknowledging that actor. It's not like he even had a major part in the first Beetlejuice movie, other than the fact that he was the vehicle to use to get Maxine out to the house to do that whole Deo scene, but otherwise, I don't know.
It seemed like they were kind of making fun of him at the beginning because they had him like with the whole shipwreck.
The way he died.
Yeah, and I was like, okay, they're just giving that asshole what he deserves. And then at the end, it was like, wait a minute, they're almost like redeeming him here at the end.
Yeah, and I didn't like that whole angle. I thought that Michael Keaton, I feel he was actually held back on his performance. Yeah, I don't know. It's like some of those lines that he delivered, it felt forced as fuck. And I feel that, I don't know, maybe the first movie he was allowed to improvise more or something, but like his flow and his timing and everything, it didn't feel right. Like, I think that they were like, okay, we got to be careful of what we say now.
Mm-hmm.
And, because he even made the joke about being politically correct in the movie. And I'm just like, why do we even have to go there? Just fucking say your lines, make your little jokes. I don't know. The kids enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was a great time waster. It was a movie I could go in and turn off my mind.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know.
A lot of Tim Burton's movies are like that.
Turn
off your mind and just have fun.
And be entertained. They are. But at the end of the day, I think my biggest thing was this movie really necessary? And it was not. It was not necessary at all.
It's one of those that, like, I think we talked about this before. I don't think it was necessary, but I think it was fun. It's like
I don't even know if I had fun, like I enjoyed it. I turned my mind off. I got a few chuckles. Like my wife and I, we took the kids to see it in the theaters, and we get in the car, and I turned to my wife and I'm like, "What'd you think?" And she's just like, "Well," and I'm like, "Exactly. That's all he had to say, you know." Dot dot dot. But
Well, and it seemed like that musical number that they had there was that seemed a little forced to have that in there because they were just trying to be reminiscent of the first one. But that was a scene that, you know, once that number got going, I was really enjoying it. By the end
oh
of it,
yeah,
I was like, oh, I see where they were, why they would want this in here. But you can definitely tell that they were only putting it there because of Deo in the first one.
yep.
But yeah,
Again,
it's
thinking outside the box, but right up next to it.
mhm. You know, one thing I noticed though, and maybe I'm alone on this. Did you ever notice in the first Beetlejuice movie, he doesn't really wear that pinstripe suit? He
No,
wears
he
it like
doesn't.
one.
It's
He wears.
literally at the end when he comes out of the model. When
Mhm,
he's like the carousel and he's like, "Attention, Kmart shoppers." That's like the only time he had that suit.
mhm.
Because
But
then he goes into the purple velour for the wedding.
mhm. But
And yeah.
when he became those monsters in the first one though, like the head that was attacking, that had the pinstripes to it, but it
Mhm.
wasn't. You could just very easily say that was part of the creature. That wasn't him.
Yeah.
He only wore that pinstripes in almost every single scene that he's in because he's actually not in the first one for very long.
No.
But every scene that he's in, he wears something different. And then in the cartoon, I was
That's
like,
when
I think that's why they did it because the cartoon had to have one straight model for
yep.
him. They couldn't
Yeah.
change it every single scene.
Yeah, no, the cartoon is where they really went heavy with the pinstripe suit. And then another thing that didn't really click with me for the movie is the whole side story with his wife or
Mm-hmm.
ex-wife or whatever. They could have done so much more with that, but it's like I don't know. I don't know what they were going for, you know, like Lydia's daughter. Here's daughter with the boyfriend who's actually a ghost. Oh, here's the ex-wife for 4 seconds. Now here's Beetlejuice. Here's the shrunken head crew. Here's the ex-wife for 4 seconds. You know, like now the singing dance number, and I don't know. I just
I think they explained a little too much in this one too, because what made Beetlejuice so good was you didn't know where he came from.
right.
And I mean, Tim Burton even said when he told Michael Keaton, because Michael Keaton came up with a lot of the look for Beetlejuice, and he said, think of a guy that's lived in every single era, but also no era at all.
Hmm.
And that's where he came up with like this, you know, the face that he's got. And now you're telling me he died during the Black Plague. It's like, oh, now you've pinpointed a time when he was alive, you know. So now there's a whole thing here, and I get that, you know, it was making his ex-wife, you know, be the antagonist for the movie and everything like that. But I'm just like, that kind of ruins it though, because Beetlejuice was timeless, and now you've stamped a date on
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Not bad. I'm saying, I'm not going to say it was a bad movie. I'm just saying it was
I'll watch
not,
it
like you said,
again.
not necessary, but fun.
Like throw it on a rainy Sunday or something. It's on HBO Max. I'm sure the boys will want to watch it again, but
Oh yeah.
it's not on my top priority. That's for sure. But it's not Minecraft, so you know, I'll take it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't
Uh,
they already are we gonna see the Minecraft movie? Are we gonna see the Minecraft movie? And I'm just like,
I'll give you the money and you can go to the
no.
theater. I'll wait
You can
outside.
go with your mom. Go on a day that I'm sleeping because I have to work that night. You know, I'm just I here's the thing. Have I ever gone on my rant with you about Pratt?
I think so, but go ahead.
Like, I can't stand Chris Pratt. Okay, like he's a horrible person in real life. I don't know if you've followed the controversy with him and what he did with his ex-wife Anna Faris and all that, and the comments he's made. But for a lack of better words, he's a horrible person. He got lucky with Guardians.
Mm.
I will say this: I did like his role as Andy on Parks and Rec. He was awesome in that. But now every fucking character he does is the same character. You know, the lines he's going to deliver are the same lines he's going to deliver in the next movie, and he's going to deliver it the exact same way. When he did Garfield, it wasn't Garfield. When he did Mario, the Mario movie was good, don't get me wrong, but he is no fucking Mario. Especially when you have the guy who does the Mario voice doing a side character for one line. Like, I get it. The dude who does Mario's voice said it does hurt his throat. So, I mean, yeah, he's going to have to take breaks and all that, but that's what voice acting is. You do your lines at a couple at a time, you take a break. So that's my, in a nutshell, that's my Chris Pratt. Everything that he does is going to be a 2-hour Chris Pratt experience of Chris Pratting his way through the movie. So now you have.
Sometimes that works. Like, it works for Guardians of the Galaxy. He's got.
It does, because that's kind of Star-Lord. Yeah, that's Star-Lord's thing. But what started this? What started this whole thing? Where was I going with this?
You were just telling me. You just said, "Did I ever give you the Chris Pratt?"
Yeah, but why did I ask you that? Who were we talking about before that?
Beetlejuice, and how a lot of, it was a lot of the same.
But there was you had mentioned a person. Oh no, the Minecraft movie. Jack Black. Sorry. Jack Black. I am sick of Jack Black. I really am. Like, I used to love Tenacious D.
Mm-hmm.
I still love Tenacious D. Jack Black is the new Chris Pratt for me.
Mm-hmm.
Every character is the exact same fucking thing. Minecraft isn't going to be Minecraft. It's going to be Jack Black's Minecraft.
Mm-hmm.
He did awesome as Bowser. I will give him that.
Yes.
I
was going to jump in and say that here in a minute.
He did. But Claptrap, he's not fucking Claptrap. Sorry, not sorry.
No, but that movie was a mistake from the word go.
What is that shitty Christmas movie that just came out?
Dear Satan. I haven't seen it. I thought it looked interesting, but I haven't seen it yet.
I'm like, and then, like I said, I saw that new video clip, which it looks like he actually finally shaved off his beard, or at least trimmed it a lot. But because that video, they did a video clip of him and Paul Rudd doing the new Anaconda movie. Mm-hmm. I don't know, Jack Black. Did you ever see the video of them doing the time warp from Rocky Horror?
Of Jack Black doing it?
Yeah.
I think you shared it in
I might have.
Yeah, I think you shared it in the group that we're in.
The way that dude is sometimes, you think he's going to have a heart attack on stage. Like, his face he's got to have high-ass blood pressure. And I think that's just part of it. Is like, one of my favorite Jack Black roles is actually The Holiday. It's like a total non-Jack Black character. One of my other favorite roles of his is his side role on one of the most underrated Jim Carrey movies of all time, The Cable Guy.
Mm-hmm.
I like
when he plays against his type.
Exactly. Like, have you ever seen there was another movie he did where he actually was a killer. He killed, and it's based on a true story. I can't remember the name of it, but it's got him, it's got Jude Law, and that was my hands down the best movie I've ever seen Jack Black do. God, I got to look that up now.
You said Jack Black is a killer?
Yeah.
Well, that's what Google's for. What movie did Jack
Bernie.
Black?
The name of the movie is Bernie. And it's a dark comedy. It came out in 2011. And it's about this guy who basically there's a woman he's taking care of, and she drives him crazy to the point that he kills her and then tries to cover it up and all that. And it's based on a true story. And like, even at the end of the movie, during the credits, they have all this behind the scenes footage of where Jack Black actually went to the prison where the actual Bernie was and like sat down and interviewed him and all of this stuff and things like that. And that is my favorite Jack Black movie because it's a non-Jack Black character, I don't know. Jack Black's just getting up there with Chris Pratt levels with me, and I am so done.
Honestly, and I know this is probably the typical Jack Black role, but my favorite Jack Black movie was Tropic Thunder. And that was partially because he was an actor making fun of himself,
Yeah.
Again, with the self-depreciation humor. That's the thing with Tropic Thunder. Like, so many people always want to praise Ben Stiller, which they should. They want to praise Robert Downey Jr., which they should. Tom Cruise, which they should. But I'm like, you realize Jack Black was in there just ripping on himself just as hard. But it's almost like his whole shtick is self-depreciation humor for a while.
Yeah.
So,
and I mean, like when Tenacious D first came out, they were on. There was a show on HBO called Mr. Show with Bob and Tom.
Yep, I've seen
it. Which was a great show too. And they were on there. Tenacious D were on there a lot, and I'm like, I fucking love these guys. Where are they from? Who are they? And now it's just like, oh great, here's Jack Black doing fucking Flipper the Dolphin, and just like, it's like.
I will say it was kind of interesting to see Tenacious D do a cover of Britney Spears' "Hit Me, Baby, One More Time."
Yeah.
But again, that was just Jack Black being Jack Black, though.
Yeah.
Now, other movies that I saw this year, I did see the last Venom movie, Venom: The Last Dance.
I haven't seen that.
That was, again, if you've ever seen the other two Venom movies, it's up there with those. So not as good as the superhero fare that we're used to, but that one holds its own. I cannot say the same for Craven because I didn't see it.
Okay.
Or Madam Web because I didn't see it. Morbius.
I was gonna say what about Morbius.
The less said, the better.
Morbius is your Concord.
Honestly, I didn't hate Morbius. I just didn't think it lived up to the hype.
Gotcha. See, here's the thing with Morbius, though. The comics were phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
I loved the comics, but there was no way they could do in the movies what they did in the comics, like unless you had a big budget backing it.
And
I don't think
they had
R rating. Yeah, and go for the R rating. Yeah. So.
I love how they went for the R rating for Craven, and I was just like, okay, you're just trying to do a last ditch effort, but from what I understand, the R rating wasn't going to save it.
Right.
And Madam Web is another one I'd like to see an actual movie on, but it doesn't sound like they could do it.
The thing with Craven, when I first heard there was a Craven movie coming out, I'm like, how many people even know who Craven is? Why? Like the same with Morbius, to be honest with you. Like when they first announced that, I'm like, how many people know who Morbius is?
Well, a lot of people know Craven because of the latest Spider-Man game.
Well, yeah, gamers do. But like if you walk up to average Joe American on the street and say, give them a list of like Captain America, Hulk, Iron Man, Craven, 9 times out of 10 they're going to go, who's Craven?
What's a Craven?
Yeah, like, so I don't know.
Yeah, well, yeah. So, like, if I went up to them and said, "Hey, who is Spider-Man's main villain?" Almost everybody's gonna say Green Goblin
or Doc Ock.
Yeah. So the ones that everybody knows. But if I'm like, wait, what about Craven? A lot of them are gonna go like, who? That was the same with like Wraith. I mean, Wraith wasn't even in a lot of people's consciousness until the last Spider-Man game.
Yeah.
I mean, she was in the ones, for Spider-Man comic enthusiasts, and I had been saying, "Hey, I'd like to see Wraith make an appearance for years," but nobody knew who Wraith was until because anytime I mentioned Wraith to people, they'd be like, "Who?"
Yeah,
and I'd be like, "Exactly."
Well,
and
I can't say
you're.
That's like when I was getting excited when they announced, Moon Knight on Disney Plus, and everybody's like, who's Moon Knight? I'm like, just wait, because I actually enjoyed that show.
Or the last Spider-Man game, they were like, oh, this is my Cindy Moon, and I was like, who's Cindy Moon? I had to look it up. I'm like, oh, she's Silk. I know the name, and it's not the almond milk. I know the name.
They just had they left that in there for all the true enthusiasts.
Yeah.
So
I hate that too. And it's like, oh, you're not a true fan unless you know every single thing. And it's like, that's asinine. It's like, I don't know every single character that's ever gone onto every single page of every comic book ever made. I am not Kevin Smith.
Right. So,
but yeah. And then, this year too. So I saw that, And I would say my favorite movie though was Deadpool and Wolverine.
That was a good one.
And
That was a good one.
man, when he, and spoilers for anybody that hasn't seen it, and I'll give you guys a minute to click off here. All right. But I remember my wife and I cheered in the theater. Rarely do you actually get us in the theater going, yes, but like the whole theater was cheering, especially like when they saw Chris Evans show up and he's like, he's going to say it. He's going to say it. And he's like, Avengers, the flame on. I was like, wait, what now? Her and I just looked at each other. We're like, what did he just say?
Yeah. My wife and I did not expect that at all. But the funniest thing, you talk about cheering in theaters and stuff, when the first Avengers movie came out and my wife and I watched it, and we were actually at the Sycamore Theater. When that's how long ago this fucking movie came out. But we were at the Sycamore Theater and the credits roll and then they end and then you just get that side shot of Thanos and everybody's just kind of sitting there and I just go, holy shit, it's Thanos. And my wife like just turns and looks at me and everybody just like turns and looks at me and I'm like, Thanos, like nobody knew what I was talking about.
And they're all like, what's a Thanos?
I'm like, yeah, pretty much. I'm like, oh, just wait.
Mm-hmm. Now, I got to ask you though, in Endgame, which is, because I know he showed up a couple of times and, but Endgame is really where you saw Thanos, or Endgame and, Infinity War. That's where you really saw what Thanos could do. Did you agree with what they did with his character for the movie? A lot of people were saying that they didn't because in the comics, he wasn't killing half of the universe just because, he wanted to make it that people could thrive or that, basically he was trying to heal the universe by genocide. But in the comic books, it's actually that he was trying to impress Lady Death. And the reason it's Lady Death is because Lady Death is actually Wade Wilson, Deadpool's girlfriend. And they couldn't bring that in because Deadpool was not part of the MCU at that time. So a lot of people were thinking, is he going to try and impress somebody else? Is there going to be another character? But then it became, I'm doing it by trying to save the universe.
See, I actually was hoping that they'd bring Lady Death into it because of the fact that they even made the comment at the end of the first Avengers when they first revealed Thanos and they said something along the lines about courting death. Mm-hmm. And when I first heard that, I was like, oh, and then, it shows Thanos slowly turn around. And that's when I was like, holy shit, and so I am disappointed. Yeah. They made an excellent villain for the MCU, but I was hoping that Lady Death would make an appearance.
And apparently, I forget what her name is, but she was in Gotham, and then she's Wade Wilson's girlfriend in Deadpool. Apparently,
and the wife of Beetlejuice.
Yeah.
Monica,
yeah, but she
something or other. Starts with a B.
It's not Belushi, but
yeah, Bocelli or something like that.
Monica Bocelli. Let me take a look here. Yeah, Belushi, not Belushi. Monica. It's not Monica Belushi, and it keeps wanting to come up here. Let me do this. Deadpool and Wolverine cast, and I wonder if it'll actually give me her on here.
Go there.
Of course, my wife walks up. She's like, "Hey, start looking all over."
And then tap cast. Right there, Marina. You're talking about
Marina. No, so not Monica. Marina Baccarin. I think it's how you say that name.
Yeah, Monica. Well, she wasn't Beetlejuice's wife because Beetlejuice was Monica. Whatever. But
yeah. But yeah, apparently, this is all just hearsay. But apparently, they did tell her that she would be Lady Death later on in either a Deadpool movie or, well, initially Deadpool because they didn't know that Disney was going to buy Fox. And they told her that she was going to be Lady Death. And then once they started writing it, they never wrote in Lady Death. So now apparently she there's all these articles going on about how she's jumping from Marvel and going to DC, and I'm like, if you guys remember, she was in Gotham, so she was on DC first and then jumped to Marvel. So
Yeah, I was
she'd be
gonna
doing
say
this going home.
Gotham is like the first place I ever saw her.
I'm having a bathtub, okay?
So, all right, yeah, and that's the first one. I remember seeing her in like some little roles, and I couldn't tell you what they were. I just remember seeing her.
Firefly.
Huh?
She was in Firefly.
Oh, Rachel said she was in Firefly.
I never watched Firefly. I should though.
I've seen it. I've seen the whole series, but I only watched it one time, so I wouldn't be what you call a super fan.
Because isn't that with
Nathan Fillion?
Yeah, Castle. And I only know that because my wife has been binging Castle the last couple days on Hulu or something, and so
yeah. And every time I see her on screen, I'm just
Hello, nurse.
I want to talk about a bizarre movie with Nathan Fillion.
A bizarre movie?
Have you ever seen Super? So Nathan Fillion actually has a small role in that. It's actually Dwight from The Office. What's his name? Rainn Wilson.
Mm-hmm.
That Rainn Wilson, and at the time, Ellen Page. And Rainn Wilson gets it in his head that he is going to just become this vigilante and bust crime. Kevin Bacon's in it as well, and who's the girl that was in Liv Tyler?
Okay.
Yeah, so there's a lot of big names in this movie, and it's I want to say it's actually a James Gunn film. Now that I think about it, if you ever get a chance, check that movie out. That's a weird little movie, but so Rainn Wilson plays this character, and Ellen Page becomes his sidekick. And
Okay.
I can't remember what Crimson Red or Red Crimson was Rainn Wilson's superhero name, and then his sidekick was Volty, but it was Ellen Page. And yeah, I'm pretty sure that was a James Gunn film.
Okay.
But yeah, that one, if you ever get a chance.
Yeah, I know Nathan Fillion actually does show up as a voice cameo in Deadpool and Wolverine. He's that floating head.
Yep.
Man, I really love Deadpool, and especially how they killed Nice Pool. Did
you see that little clip with Deadpool and Kidpool and Wonder Woman?
Yeah.
That was pretty funny. And yes, it was a James Gunn film. I just looked it up.
James Gunn, he's actually the director and producer of the new Superman movie, which they just put their new trailer out for it. Now
was this a teaser trailer for the teaser trailer, or was this the actual teaser trailer?
The actual teaser,
because they did do a teaser trailer for the teaser trailer as well.
Yeah, they did that. Kind of like how what was that? Christopher Walken did with the what was that? The Super Bowl ad that he was in last year. He's like, "Is a teaser? What is a teaser? An ad for an ad? Why would they do that?"
Yeah.
I remember even talking to Rachel, and I was like, you realize when he started his acting career, he never thought there'd be an ad for an ad that's going to play during a game.
Right.
But yeah, with Deadpool and Wolverine, though, I really loved how one of my favorite part about it isn't even necessarily something that was in the movie. It was the story about it where Hugh Jackman said that he was done with Wolverine. I'm done after Logan. You can't fix, you can't mess with that ending. And then apparently Ryan Reynolds was basically camping outside of his house saying like, hey, they're making a Deadpool movie. We need to bring Wolverine in. And he was sitting there, no. And then I guess it wasn't until that Jackman saw the first Deadpool movie that he was like, maybe I could. But then
I gotta get in on this.
Yeah. Well, but then I was like, well, if that was the case, why didn't he show up in Deadpool 2? And it was Ryan Reynolds said we just couldn't find the right formula to maybe bring him into this. So we decided to keep that whole he says no thing going. And then once they decided to write it with those two in mind, like not even with Deadpool as the lead, but literally the two of them as the lead, then they were able to write it in there. Did you hear though? They actually one of the riskiest jokes in there was at Hugh Jackman's expense, but they had to clear it with Hugh Jackman before.
No.
Where they say something like, I think he goes, "That's Wolverine," and he goes like, "Usually he's shirtless, but he's let himself go since the divorce." And there was like Hugh Jackman and his wife divorced after 27 years of marriage earlier this year or earlier last year. And apparently Ryan Reynolds wrote that joke in there, and he was actually feeling really bad about it. So he went to Sean Levy, the director, who said, "You need to run that by Jackman. We are not going to spring that on him in the middle of filming." Right. So he actually went up there, and he was like, and Ryan and Hugh are actually friends. They have this online rivalry, but they're good friends in real life.
Oh God, yeah. I've seen posts of them and it was Hugh, Ryan, and Jake Gyllenhaal having an ugly Christmas sweater competition.
Speaking of ugly Christmas sweaters.
Yep.
Yeah. So I remember seeing that photo as well. But they went there, and he was like, "Can we make this joke? If you say no, we'll back off." And he said, "Oh yeah, that's funny." he was like so cool with it. They were like, right. "Oh God." They had to like
sigh of relief.
Apparently there was only one line that Disney had a problem with though. And it was actually where Deadpool took a shot at Mickey Mouse. And I'm like, so they'll let him rip on Disney as a whole, but they don't want him ripping on Mickey Mouse.
You gotta protect the mouse.
Well, the line that they replaced it with was where they said, "Oh, please tell me it's Magneto." And they're like, "He's dead." Fuck. And then he goes, "Now Disney decides to get cheap. I swear ever since this merger, it's like Pinocchio put his face in my ass and started lying like crazy." That was the line it was replaced with. The original was, "Now Disney decides to get cheap. Ever since this merger, I feel like that mouse has got his cock in my mouth and humping me down." And they were like, "Please change that." And he was like, "Wait a minute, we're ripping on Disney. We literally call them cheap. We rip on them to the shareholders. And their problem is when we talk about Mickey Mouse cock."
Yeah. That's why I like that South Park episode with the Jonas Brothers and the Purity Ring and the whole Mickey Mouse thing. I don't know if you've seen that, but God, it's hilarious.
They've ripped on Mickey Mouse a few times there. And it's always the same kind of Mickey Mouse too.
Yeah.
There was one during when Obama and Mitt Romney were campaigning for the presidency, and Mickey Mouse is explaining to Eric why Obama had to win the presidency and how it would be good for business. And it's so funny. Cartman just looks at me. He's like, "That's crap, Mouse, and you know it." And he's like, "What did you say?" And he's like, "You just didn't want Romney because Romney would have been tougher on the Chinese." And then just walks away, and I'm like, "Oh my God, that's almost a below the belt, but not that it's not true."
I love South Park.
It's true, but
yeah,
ouch, dude, that's below the belt. But I mean, that's the thing with South Park. They don't care.
They'll rip on anybody and everybody.
They hold up a mirror to America and just say, like, "This is how ridiculous you look." So, but yeah, and then I will probably die on this, and you can play that Boo This Man if you want. But I saw the movie Red 1 a couple of weeks ago, and I actually liked it. It was not a perfect movie by any stretch of the imagination. But it was one where my wife and I went on an afternoon show. We didn't pay full price. And we were able to just turn our brains off and say, this is going to be a Christmas movie. And it was a Christmas movie, just like Die Hard. You can boo this man all you want, but I enjoyed it.
I will give you this. It doesn't have Jack Black.
That you know of. Maybe a cameo.
I doubt it. They would have been. Are you kidding me? He would have probably written a song about it.
Yeah, true.
Oh.
And I mean, it's a lot of fun if you just go in there, if you shut your brain off, and you just go in there to enjoy a Christmas movie. It's like most Christmas movies, you know.
Here's the thing about that. I can shut my brain off to an extent. And that one, I think I wouldn't be able to master. My wife has one that she watches every Christmas that she's got the boys into as well. and I have to leave the room. It's a Grumpy Cat's Christmas.
Okay, I won't do that.
And to give you the greatness of this movie, Grumpy Cat is voiced by Aubrey Plaza.
Yep.
Yep, that happened. So, it's the two villains in this Grumpy Cat movie make the two bully villains from Hocus Pocus look like fucking geniuses.
Mm.
And yeah, it just Grumpy Cat's Christmas. I can't do it. There's very few movies that I will tap out to, and that one within the first 2 minutes, I'm like, done. Just
Well, to be fair, Red One was not filmed with the intention of being a worldwide release like this. It was filmed to be a straight to streaming movie for Amazon. So if you look at it and you're like, oh, these effects and stuff like that, it looks cheesy. Well, that's because it was meant to be a cheesy at-home movie. It wasn't until they did the test audience for it, and the test audience actually responded really well to it, that they decided, and I was like, okay, you probably should do more than one test audience with this kind of stuff. But
was it just a couple of homeless people off the street that they offered lunch to, or like,
apparently it was a whole theater full. But yeah, the test audience responded really, really well to it, and they decided to release it as a worldwide release. But that's also why it's got the worldwide release, but it's on streaming right now. Because they only put it in there in shortly before Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm.
And now just like a week or two before Christmas, it's streaming. And I'm like, so that was a pretty short runtime, but it's still in the theaters now. I looked it up because I was looking to see a movie this weekend. It's still there. So I'm like, so Amazon is just trying to milk it for what it's worth, which, okay, I see companies want to make money, but you got to go in there knowing it wasn't supposed to be a movie that was supposed to be on. It was made for the small screen.
Right.
That is just being put on the big screen.
I mean, if you want to talk about made for small screen Christmas movies that are actually good, Guardians of the Galaxy Christmas. I enjoyed that, especially Kevin Bacon. He was fantastic in it. But
see, and I enjoyed Chris Pratt as Mario with a couple little waha. But I think I enjoyed the Mario movie overall, and I was able to tolerate him.
Oh, I enjoyed the movie. I don't get me wrong, I enjoyed the movie. I just don't like Chris Pratt because every character he plays is the same character. He doesn't have any range of voice acting capabilities. It's just him. So, like, did you see the Garfield movie?
Nope, and I will not do that.
I saw it because the kids wanted to see it. And again, it was actually a pretty good movie. But it was Chris Pratt in his way through as Garfield. And it just, yeah.
So, I mean, I can see it. I mean, Seth Rogen is the same way. Because I guess even when Nintendo approached him to do the voice for Donkey Kong, he was like, I don't do voices. And I was like, well, he's done voices before. But he's like, yeah, but have you ever heard my voice acting? It's my voice.
Right.
And they were like, oh, that's what we want. And I was like, okay. And I could eventually, when he was Donkey Kong, I could eventually get over it. But when he was going like, ha, 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 I was like, that's Seth Rogen. That's not a Donkey Kong.
And he's got a very, very distinct laugh. So, I mean, it's like as soon as you hear that laugh, you're like, okay, that's Seth. You know, just like on the Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem movie. One of the mutants, Wingnut, is voiced by this actress. Her name is like Natasha something. I can't pronounce it, but she's got a very distinct voice. I know her more as Nadja on What We Do in the Shadows. So it's like as soon as which they just had their series finale said, but as soon as I heard Wingnut talk, I'm like, oh, Nadja. You know, and my wife's like, totally. And
if you bring up Mutant Mayhem, that's kind of like Baxter was voiced by Ice Cube, and it doesn't matter what role he's in, family movie, whatever. Ice Cube. You know, he might not be swearing and doing the whole gangster thing, but that's still Ice Cube. You know?
Right.
It's kind of funny. He actually told Conan one time that he did what was it? He did the Are We There Yet movies.
Mm-hmm.
Are We There Yet and Are We Done Yet? And then the Are We There Yet TV show. And he was like, you hadn't done a whole lot of kids shows. And he was like, I've done Sesame Street. It's like, I just did a lot of the background stuff for this. And I didn't realize how much work that a lot of these celebrities had done in kids films until I got older. Like, I met Arabian Prince. He was one of the founding members of the NWA. And he said that he actually worked on a lot of the video game scores that we grew up with in the 90s. And he said, but you won't see our names on there because back then, now you see, the score is done by Trent Reznor. Everyone freaks out. You know, with original music by Dr. Dre. Everyone freaks out.
Right.
Back then, it wasn't until Michael Jackson put his name on Sonic and let them do like the Michael Jackson moonwalk game that celebrities started being taken seriously in video games.
Well, hell,
Like,
I mean,
it was a career suicide to say, oh, yeah, he did that.
yeah. I mean, even you know, like more classically musicians, like for example, today I beat Dragon Age, and you know, musical score written by Hans Zimmer, and I'm just like, Jesus Christ, he did the music for this, you know, like, you know, but yeah, I could see that, not wanting to put your name on something because. Well, I mean, you got to realize back then, I mean, video games were a fucking joke. They were taboo, you know. And I even remember like the Far Side. You remember the Far Side comics?
Yeah.
And my aunt sent one to my parents, basically making fun of me because it was the kid playing a video game in front of the TV, and the caption of the comic literally just read "hopeful parents," and the mom and dad are standing behind them with like a thought bubble of like. It says like professional video game player, $5,000, wanted hourly, you know, like a wanted ads of professional. And it's like, look at it now, you know. Who's laughing now, bitches? You know, who was wrong and who was right, you know. So I can see why people wouldn't want to put their name on video game music back then.
Yeah, he said it was career suicide back then. It wasn't, and he said it wasn't until Michael Jackson admitted that he did I think it was Sonic 3 or was it the original Sonic?
It was one of the Sonics.
Yeah, and then he did Moonwalker, and then he was like, it was that, and then you had people like Ray Liotta and Burt Reynolds showing up and putting their names on Grand Theft Auto, but they only did that because it was more of an adult game. That apparently, while they were doing their voiceover for that game, apparently they were causing a lot of problems because they thought they were too good for this kind of work. And I'm like, well, while we sit there and go like, oh, how selfish, they're just stuck up AAA Hollywood, da-da-da. But I'm like, you got to remember, they were going into a medium that didn't have the reputation that it does now. Right. I mean, you're like, oh, a big name celebrity. Cool. What else you got?
There's another video game. There's another video game that Michael Jackson was in, but he was like as a cameo, Space Channel 5.
Yeah.
On the Dreamcast.
Yep.
So, but.
You were talking about Jack Black earlier. You know, one of his first earliest roles was a cameo, or I don't know if it would even be a cameo, but was actually in an episode of The X-Files. And it was actually him and Giovanni Ribisi.
Okay.
They were just like two stoner guys that Giovanni Ribisi is like this entity from another world. And he comes down and he actually is in an arcade. And he antagonizes two bullies, and they beat him up. And then he gets up and is like, "Is it my turn now?" And then he like drains their life force. Of course, Jack Black is the human that's walking around with this guy, and he's sitting there going like, "Oh, you can't do that." And he's like, and then of course, Giovanni Ribisi looks at him like he's like, "Okay, maybe you can do that." But I'm like, it's just Jack Black being Jack Black at a young age.
Giovanni Ribisi is an underrated actor. He was fantastic. I mean, he was even on Friends, if you remember. He was like the high schooler that, was it Monica was dating, or Rachel, or Phoebe, or one of them.
I think it was Phoebe's brother.
Phoebe's brother, that's right. And then, because he dated the woman who played Kitty on that 70s show.
Yep.
And but one of my favorite characters of Giovanni Ribisi, actually, I have two, is he was the villain in Ted,
Hmm.
and then A Million Ways to Die in the West, or
Yeah.
whatever. He was, I mean, both Seth MacFarlane films, but he was great in both of those.
He was the lead character in I think a very underrated drama called Boiler Room. It sounds like it's got an all-star cast, but the main stars are only in it for like 2 scenes. It's it's got Giovanni Ribisi. It's actually like kind of like a Wall Street kind of movie, if you ever
Okay.
saw Wall Street. But it's got Giovanni Ribisi in it, and then Ben Affleck writing on the coattails of like when he initially got famous. So think of how long ago this was. And then it also had Vin Diesel was in
Okay.
it as well. And Vin Diesel is literally only in it for 2 scenes, and he has like maybe 3 lines. And
Is it I Am Groot?
Yeah. But yeah, he's in it, but it's like enough that they put his face on the box, and I'm like, yeah, but he only says like 3 lines in 2 scenes,
And then
and
he's
one of
out.
those lines is "Yeah, baby" or something like that when he's watching TV.
That's awesome.
And then Ben Affleck has like a little speech that he gives because he's like their boss or whatever. He's like the guy that they're trying to aspire to. But again, he's only in it for like 2 scenes. The rest is Giovanni Ribisi. And then also remember, he played the villain, one of the villains in Avatar. Not the one that was like in the suit or everything, but he was the one like running things from the ship and telling him to destroy the tree and stuff like that.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. Man, I hated him in that movie, but it's like that's the thing is like when you can play a role so well that people literally hate you. That was the same
Doing
with
a good job.
Did you ever watch Game of Thrones?
Oh yeah.
I remember I heard a rumor that the kid that played Joffrey, as soon as the first season was done, what's his name that wrote the books?
Martin.
George R.R. Martin. He actually called that actor up and he said, "Congratulations, but watch yourself because everyone hates you." He said literally like people will like scream at him in public. Like he'll just be at the mall or something and people are like, "What did you do that for?" And he's like, "You know that was a character."
Fictional characters.
He's like, "Yeah, I can just."
Okay, they're talking about fictional characters. Fictional characters. Am I getting through to you at all?
Yeah, but he was just like, "It's not me." He's like, "You realize that actor's fine. You know, him and I actually talked last week."
We just had coffee, Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I gotta ask you before we start to wrap this up, what movies do you are coming out next year that you know of that you're looking forward to?
I honestly can't think of one. I don't even know what's coming out next year. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Because I can't think of any like that are right offhand. I do know that there's a Looney Tunes movie, but who knows if it's going to come out because
Warner Brothers might pull it.
Yeah, because WB. I do know that what is it? Captain America: Brave New World comes out next year. So that
That's
one
right.
I am looking forward to with Harrison Ford taking
What's
over as
the-
Red Hulk.
What's the one that like doesn't have an actual title and they're using an asterisk even? It's some Marvel movie with like the because it has Bucky in it, I thought. And
I'm
trying to remember the name of the movie.
well, I can't think of that one. I do know next year we've got 28 Years Later is coming out, which is the third movie in the 28 Days Later. Superman is coming out. I am interested in seeing that because I like James Gunn. So even though this isn't with Henry Cavill, Cavill, sorry. I know it's not with him. I am looking forward to that. Jurassic World Rebirth. I'm looking forward to. That is the Jurassic Park movie that won't have Chris Pratt in it. That is going to be Black Widow, and I can't think of her name. Scarlett Johansson.
Yeah. Thunderbolts. That's the
Thunderbolts. Okay.
that's the one that like it doesn't even have a, and Black Widow's in that as well. Or no, not Black Widow, but her sister.
Okay.
Florence, what's her name? Florence, I can't remember her last name, but she plays Black Widow's sister.
Florence Pugh? No. Pugh.
Yeah.
Or it is Pugh.
Pugh or something like that. But yeah, she's in it. Thunderbolts, but it's like that's not the official title even, and it has a little asterisk at the end of it.
And I know next year they've got the live action Snow White, which no. They've got a live action Lilo and Stitch, which maybe when it comes to streaming.
I hate live action. To me, live action is the new 3D.
Yeah.
And it just not everything. This is not helping the arguments of, well, Hollywood has no new ideas.
Mm-hmm.
No,
it's
or
not.
it is helping the argument. And it's like, I understand that it takes a lot of thought and shit to make a movie, but Jesus Christ, people, especially these movies that just recently came out, you don't need a live action one already. Like Moana does not need a live action movie right now.
It just came out a few years ago.
Yeah, and part 2 just came out in theaters, and it's like, or is coming out. I don't even know if it's out yet, but it's like Moana does not need a live action.
Right.
Lilo and Stitch does not need a live action. Snow White definitely does not need a fucking live action. Little Mermaid did not need a live action. Lion King does not need a CGI live action. It's like,
I don't say Lion King was live action because I'm like, no, none of those animals were there talking. That was all animation. It was photorealistic animation, but it was animation.
Right.
And,
but you get what I mean.
Yeah, and I know this doesn't help that thing, but I know Final Destination has a new movie coming out, and then there's a remake of Frankenstein coming out, which honestly I thought looks good from what I've heard, but I'm cautiously optimistic.
See, with Final Destination though, is it a remake or is it a new, like in the line?
It's new in the line. It's kind of like a soft reboot.
Okay.
So kind of like how the later Scream movie was a remake, but it was a reboot. Yeah, but it was
the Evil Deads.
Yeah.
Okay.
So kind of like they remake it, but they don't say that the other events didn't happen, but they pretty much retell the same events.
So thinking outside the box, but right up next to it.
Yes.
Got it.
And I know Karate Kid has another movie coming out.
Yes.
Yep. And there's a new I Know What You Did Last Summer coming out next year too. And apparently Freddie Prinze Jr. is coming out of retirement for that one.
Really?
Yeah. And so Jennifer Love Hewitt, who's been on 911 for the last couple of years, I think she's actually stepping in as a producer for it. I know there's a new Wolfman movie coming out next year too. So a new Frankenstein and Wolfman. Imagine that. And I think
we get Dracula this year.
Yeah.
Well, Nosferatu. And
I think Avatar is going to come out next year too. And then there's a new Silent Hill movie supposed to come out next year.
With Avatar, wasn't there supposed to be like 16 movies? Didn't he say at one point that there was supposed to be like 16 movies total, and they're on 3?
Yeah, I think it was supposed to be. I think he got permission to do like the next 5 movies all back to back, and that's why you didn't hear from him for a long time. Because he wanted to tell one story, but he had to do it before those kids aged out of their roles.
It's like that one video game that was supposed to have 16 chapters that Shenmue.
Shenmue 3.
And there's there 3 came out not too long ago. Well, a couple years ago.
Yeah, and you'll probably never see it because it was a financial flop.
Yeah.
But you know what does come out next year? That's that horror version of Neverland, and there's that horror version of Mickey. They're making, because those are like public domain characters now.
So like what they did with Winnie the Pooh.
Yep.
Blood and Honey or whatever it was.
Yeah, and they're making a sequel to that, Blood and Honey 2.
Well, I mean, even Sharknado has like 6 movies, so why not?
So, But yeah, those are the ones. And then The Bad Guys has a new movie coming out next year as well.
The
But
animated cartoon one?
yeah,
Okay, I actually enjoyed that.
But yeah, was there any final thought? I know we ran over here a little bit. Oh, and I'm see here. I didn't see Looker was back. He said it's just industry trying to capitalize on hype of history. Yeah, I can
Yes.
definitely see that.
Yes, it is.
I said, hey, so Adam, what's your con host's name? Oh, because you didn't put your name up here.
It should say Koimia X. It should say.
Koimia. Legend. Yeah, Koimia X. But yeah, co-host name. But yeah, Koimia X. But yep, and you'll see him probably posting on the pages and stuff as well.
I need to get back onto posting on the Facebook. It's been a while since I posted on there. But I am on Twitter and Twitch. It's the same name, Koimia X.
And Pinocchio. Oh yeah, there is a horror version of Pinocchio coming out as well. You know, did you ever read the original Pinocchio? Pinocchio's kind of a dick in the original book.
Yeah.
I mean, he literally tries to kill, or doesn't he actually kill Jiminy Cricket?
I believe initially that's what it did. Yeah. Sorry, I'm just reading Looker's comments over here on.
It's too small. Well, she didn't say that about me. Oh,
Oh yeah. See, like I don't know if I was to type in the comments on StreamYard, would that show up in your Twitch feed or no?
Yeah, it should.
Okay. So like if I type my name, so like because I know it shows up for YouTube, but
let me see here. It should show up in there. I've got it programmed that it's supposed to, but what I have it programmed to do and what it actually does are a lot.
It's like I see his comments and I see the little Twitch symbol, and then I see my comment and I see the little YouTube symbol, but I don't know if he will see it on your stream unless you have one of those chat bots that does the multi-stream, or you could just do that too. So
there we go. And then yep, he says I've taken over posting on it. So, but yeah, so before we end this year, got any plans for New Year's Eve? Or actually, I should say this is going to be our Christmas and New Year's show because we're both going to be gone
next
weekend. So this is actually our year-end show. Got any plans for New Year's Eve or any plans for Christmas?
Well, because I'm working overnights now, I'm doing Christmas with my wife's family on Monday, and then I'm actually off Christmas Eve, but then we'll be back to work on Christmas Day night, like 25th into the 26th, and then I'm working New Year's Eve. I already told my boss I don't really give a rat's ass about New Year's Eve, so I actually have now, this will be year 5. Like my father passed away New Year's Eve day at like 1 a.m. on December 31st. So now it's like I really don't care about New Year's Eve. And so I told my boss, as long as I get Christmas Eve off, I can work New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, whenever. So so Christmas will just be at home with the boys and the wife. And then next weekend I'm going to see my side of the family for Christmas.
Okay. Yeah, we were hoping to get this week of Christmas off, but we ended up getting denied to have these days off, and I don't know why, because we put our days in plenty of time, and we were one of the first, but they didn't give us the days. I
think you're coming down with something.
Yeah,
I believe I hear a little something in your
Okay, yeah, you're getting that live on camera, right?
I'm hearing you. I'm hearing you come down with something.
I might have the next week flu.
A little bit of a I don't give a fuckitis. So.
But yeah, we weren't able to go see our families for Christmas, but we got invited to a friend of ours that only lives about an hour and a half away. So she invited us over for brunch, and we are going over to her husband's families for brunch. And I'm not sure what we'll do that night. I know movie theaters are open, so we might go see Nosferatu, or we might go see Sonic, depending on what we want to go do. And then New Year's Eve, we're actually, as of right now, we're planning on just being out of town. New Year's Eve into New Year's Day, and then coming back and working on the 2nd.
Did you spell my name wrong? Is that an M or an N that you put in there?
I thought that was an M.
It is it's supposed to be an M. I can't tell if that's an M or an N.
All right. Let me just make sure I do it right. M-I-A-X.
Sorry, I'm just like... And you didn't do the first I.
God dang it!
I mean, I know you only have one eye, but I've got
two.
Thank you very much.
That's true. Koimmi. If I can only have one eye, then so can everything else.
Everybody in the world gets one eye.
You know, did you ever see the movie? God, what was that? It was a Tom Cruise movie where he could Minority Report. And I want to say it was in that movie where maybe it was either that movie or it was the one with Jet Li. But I remember they were kind of talking to this somewhat of an antagonist that was kind of creepy, and he was like, "In the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king." And I remember I saw that in the theater, and I just shouted out, I was like, "Sweet deal, I'm king in some areas." And I remember I was there with a group of friends, and like every single one of them, like one of them actually dropped their popcorn because they were laughing so hard.
I mean, you're not wrong. Nice. Nice.
When I worked at Best Buy, I worked at the security, the guys in the yellow shirts that are up at the front of the store. And one of my coworkers was like, "Hey, Adam, I just need you to keep an eye out for this guy over there." And I got on the walkie right after that, and I was like, "Bill," which was the name of our boss. I was like, "Hey, Bill, I need to file a formal complaint against Stephanie. She just told me of all people to keep an eye out." And I remember I heard like a couple of laughs around the store, and I was like, "Wait, are they laughing at what I said?" And like a couple seconds later, I just heard, "Nice, nice Adam," going on, and I was like, and that's why I told him, I was like, you know what? Having one eye, it's not something I wanted. It's not something I would ever wish on anybody, but I got stuck with it. So
make the best of it.
Make the best of it and have fun with it. As a kid, I used to get upset when people would make fun of me. Now I'm just sitting here going like, okay, yeah, I haven't heard that one a million times. But when somebody says something that I haven't heard, I'm like, okay, that's good.
That's like there's a band and unfortunately they're into controversial now with the lead singer, Mindless Self-Indulgence.
Mm-hmm.
And that lead singer had a whole case brought against him and all of that. But anyway, one of their songs is called Never Wanted to Dance, but the very first verse is just, "There's nothing you can do to me that I have not already done to myself." And I'm just like, beautiful,
Yeah.
So
yep. Well, all right. Well, yep. And I'd like to say it's been awesome having you as a host here. Looking forward to having you as the permanent co-host in the new year. I know you were here. Yeah, I know that you were just here the last 2 weeks, but for 2024. So, but it was fun, and
I enjoyed it.
Yeah,
I enjoyed it.
Let's see what we can do in the new year. This show is gonna take off somewhere, maybe crash, but
it'll be spectacular regardless.
Exactly. You're either gonna go like wow or wow.
Yeah. Either way, you all are coming with us. Buckle up.
But yeah, thank you all for coming and hanging out. And you can always leave it in the comments here in YouTube. Let us know, what are your plans? What were your favorite gaming moments, gaming controversies? What were your favorite entertainment? What kind of plans you got going on? Just let us know in the comments. And what's up?
I just thought of something, and this would actually be perfect for it. We should do an episode where somebody keeps tally of how many tangents we go off on.
Looker, you're on it.
And like I said, that's just like, there's a tangent right there.
Yep.
So
doesn't this make like the 5th tangent of this?
In the last 20 seconds? So
Yeah, and don't stop us from going on our tangents.
God,
just
no.
telling them because that's where the meat of the show is at.
that's where the garbage comes from.
Exactly. So,
So
but yeah. Anyway, but yeah. Thank you very much. We're looking forward to everything that we got coming up in the new year, and we will see everybody later.
Good night, everybody.